Hello and welcome to RHAP's coverage of Australian Survivor. I'm your host, Shannon Guss, here for a little bit of Survivor AU redemption coverage. And with me is the what? what to my redemption? This is a very rare for an Australian Survivor season, not to have a Titan and a Rebel, an AU and a World. The redemption to my island? I don't know. It's Mike Bloom. Mike, thank you for being here.
The brook to my Harry was right there, Shannon. Close allies, rascally. One of them is literally rascally.
I mean, they're not a duo. I wouldn't say that.
They're the two of the only people who work together of the 4 returnees this season. So,
right, but we're way closer than people who just work together. I thought.
I believe so personally, but I'm excited to be here, Shannon. We are encroaching upon what I believe is truly a new era for Australian Survivor in so many ways, and I'm obsessed with the idea that much like the new era of Survivor US. They've basically ditched themes, but they're still keeping a theme. Nonetheless, I am obsessed with the idea of redemption, whatever this ubiquitous concept is. And I'm thrilled to talk about this cast because, we've talked about this before, but I think we can officially say it now that we're barreling down, the beginning of this all. This may be a very vital season to the lifeblood of Australian Survivor.
Look, every season is important when you're in the global Survivor world. You're not like US Survivor that's just renewed seasons in advance. I feel like every season is so important. It's a late start. It's a very late start. I kind of feel like they're wanting to miss the married at first sight weddings.
Do you think the Olympics had anything to do with it?
I mean, it is after the Olympics, but the thing is that they have I'm a Celebrity during the Winter Olympics, and that does better. So. And maybe that's the whole point, is that they want to up a heavier Titan. Maybe we're not that Titan anymore that we used to be. That was getting the ratings, and I'm a Celeb has taken that, and they want that against
back in the day. They had Olympians winning Australian Survivor. Now they have to wait for the Olympians to show themselves out before they can come in and play.
Yeah, I do think it's mostly the married at first sight weddings, but it's probably both. So it's a very late start, and that's why we're doing this here on Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day for me, not for you. But by the time this podcast is over, probably will be your Valentine.
Just to clarify, this is a timing thing. It's not Shannon making a slide of Happy Valentine's Day to me, but not to you.
Not for you. By the time this podcast is over, it probably will be your Valentine's Day because we have 24 people to go through. It's a large cast, and we're going to talk about all of it.
But I'm ready, Shannon. I've been I've got a little bit of that AU blood injected in me, considering that I've been releasing 24 interviews with the cast of US Survivor 50. So truly, it feels like US and AU are coming full circle here.
I don't know how you do, but if anyone hasn't checked out Mike's 50 interviews, definitely do that. I mean, Mike, it's crazy how much podcasting you're doing just on the side, of this conversation about Australian Survivor, the interviews with all the 50 people, then you did previews on all the 50 people. You've done well over 50, probably 100 podcasts. It's February this year.
Yeah, because we also did the Wishlist podcast, which was 50 podcasts as well. So I've done triple-digit podcasts about Survivor 50. So I'm thrilled to honestly put my brain into Survivor AU as well. Not only because I love Australian Survivor. Listen, did I wish that maybe it also aired a little earlier? Sure, so that it wasn't premiering 2 days before Survivor 50. But regardless, I'm grateful to have Australian Survivor, which I have always largely enjoyed. And again, I'm super curious to see what direction this show is going to take, because it does feel like, from a skeleton perspective, a notable shift. Of course, a new host, one of the most seasoned showrunners who was up until the last season, Braden versus Braun 2, before AU versus the World, left as well. So they brought in somebody new. So again, considering the marked shifts we saw with Survivor US when it came to something like the new era, I'm really interested to see what new things are going to be taken, what new shots in this version of Australian Survivor, or is it going to be more same old, to the point where we have 4 same old faces sort of anchoring these tribes?
Yeah, so as Mike mentioned, it is airing the week of 50, February 23rd. And then there's 3 episodes that week. A big week for you, Mike. Obviously, Australian Survivor and 50. I'm having a baby. But
I would argue a little bit of a bigger week.
No, I don't think so. You've put as much effort into 50 as I've had into growing this child. I
think you've gone more than 100 hours pregnant I'm not a mathematician, but I imagine that's the case.
Yeah, but that's 100 hours on air for you. Like the amount of prep, and then you went out to Fiji. It's probably much of a muchness, but it's going to be a big week. I'm going to be here and
making its false equivalency, so I'm not, and I get lambasted for making a comparison between the two.
I wouldn't say it about most things. You put in a lot of effort, but I will literally be here till the wheels fall off. I mean, not the wheels, but until the baby is born, and
until the water is broken.
Till and then
the blood versus water is no, I'm just not myself.
I can't. The recap uncles will have you in, I would say, good hands, but Mike just did a blood versus water broken joke, so you'll be in hands, hands of the fans, hands of the recap uncles, and they'll do that while I raise the child I'm going to have. And so February 23rd, late start, very late start. Australian Survivor could have helped me out before the birth of my child, but they didn't, and it is what it'll be. So what else do we have? The theme. Let's talk about the Redemption theme. It's not Redemption Island, I don't think.
Okay, so it's not Redemption Island, but basically I can't help but, Shannon, look at this cast and feel like this is Edge of Extinction without the second location. Like the fact that we have 4 returnees, 2 on each tribe.
Yeah, they don't think about that.
A bunch of them are playing 3 times. One person is like the standout from a couple seasons ago who's brought back again, like we saw with David Wright. And so I again cannot wrap my head around this. This is something that has kept me up for many hours trying to figure out, what do they mean by this? Because yeah, as you mentioned, I mean, certainly I would not be surprised if they do some sort of like redemption, rock, purgatory.
Don't put that in the universe. See, that's when I'm going to be grateful for the baby that I'm not there for that.
Exactly. We've seen that a number of times, but obviously, again, they were sort of moving on with this group of people, bringing a handful of returnees, but they didn't really go for a theme. But I imagine they were thinking, shit, we got to come up with something. You know, we're long past the days of Australian Survivor 2017. We can't go back to years and parentheticals. What's the theme? Everyone feels embarrassed about something. Redemption. Sure, you're going to redeem yourself for whatever exists in your life. You're going to put yourself in your underwear on this, deserted island in the middle of Samoa, backstabbing and starving yourself. And that is the penance you will receive in this world. This is how you will be able to look yourself in the mirror and see not only a gaunt face, but a proud face of someone who has truly redeemed themselves in their lives.
No, what actually happens is the way they come up with the themes is they go to the US Survivor Wikipedia page and they look at the themes that they've done and they use that as a jumping off point. I think that's pretty obvious. So I think next year might be like Australian Survivor Edge of Extinction, but it's like a dodo bird.
Or it's like an actual, or just Survivor Edge, because we're just truncating words from these seasons.
I like the Edge of Extinction thing because it's like, what are things that are extinct? Like they could get all of the people who were in roles or jobs that have been like taken out by AI. Wow, 24 easy.
Well, that's a good form of employment. Oh God, that feels so just like dystopian. I mean, I actually love this though because I feel like, isn't Aussie slang known for like abbreviating words en masse? So it makes sense that they would take Redemption Island and take an abbreviated to Redemption.
It is funny though, because I think I've made the joke on the podcast, but definitely when we first heard about it, my brother and I were trying to put literal meanings to other US themes. Like if David versus Goliath were like actual people named David versus like very tall people. It's very literal. It's very tough because there's only 4 returnees. So like obviously if it was all returnees and non-winners, Redemption would speak for itself. They're redeeming themselves from losing the game. However, that's only true of 4 people, maybe 6 if you count other reality shows, maybe 7. I guess one of them was briefly on The Voice, but we don't have bios up yet. I haven't checked today, but I don't think the bios are up, but we got a media kit. So we're going to use that because that's going to be the bios. And there are some pretty thin threads that they try to weave around, and I will be calling it out. Like one guy was like, Redemption, that I'm not just a guy who's a truck driver. I'm like, no, that's not no. You don't need redemption for being a truck driver. No.
I love getting to clock these. And like, listen, I don't think it's at any fault to the players. Like it's very clear.
No, of course not.
They're trying to get blood or water from a stone of like, and what does redemption mean to you? But it's incredible. I know we're going to get so many sound bites about it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll get some like tragic backstories of like, I was in this bike race and I fell on the last lap. Again, I'm watching the Olympics and I think just about these sports moments broadcast to all of television. Like that is
Bradbury.
Yeah. Well, Stephen Bradbury was the opposite of redemption.
It should be all these competitors should be in the season. Yeah. But what's so interesting that I found about this is like the thing that, and I think Rob always says this, is that the sob stories is US Survivor, and the like superpower stories has been Australian Survivor. Like, here's why my job especially makes me this like interesting, big, personality. And because of the redemption aspect, they lent into the opposite, I think, a bit of that in the bios, where it's not like, wow, this is my superpower. It's like, no, I need redemption from something. And they had to lean into those storylines, which is like, very unlike what it's been. Yeah. So, it's I think that already is quite different. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, 4 returnees, which is so interesting. 3 men and 1 woman. Look, Australian Survivor, they did a hybrid season of Heroes versus Villains that was 11 returnees versus 13. Like, they've had just Luke, they like.
Yeah, they did Blood versus Water, where they brought back 2 contestants as a pair and then 1 contestant and 1 newbie as a pair. Like, there's
Sandra.
Like, there's no sort of equity or concept going on. I mean, I think, again, when we talk about what's going on with the network at the time and the fact that this is their first season without Jonathan LaPaglia as the host, there is this idea too of like wanting to bring in, I think, some familiar faces. And I think there certainly are, a few very popular names that I think people are very excited to see back, that I think does make a lot of sense if you want to try to at least get an initial pop in the ratings. Again, when they did this with Rob and Russell, they had Redemption Island partially as a concept to keep them in the game. That doesn't exist if those guardrails aren't there. I don't know how the ratings will do if like the first 4 boots are Mark, Brooke, Harry, and Simon, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
If they can all be out of the game by the time I have the kid that actually, like, I mean, I feel sad for them, but my investment probably would drop a bit because I love these 4 returnees. I just want to say, as TV characters and as people, I did Talking Tribal with Brooke. The other 3, Simon, Harry, and Mark, have all been reliable guests on the podcast. I was in a final 2 with Harry. I wondered, how many times am I going to bring this up before I leave? But I was in a final 2 with Harry in Equilibrium, which is actually interesting. This is an online game that podcasters and players played. And Simon, apparently, we found out later, had organized the game to try and get some intel on the other players.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. He tried to get Mark, I think, and Mark didn't play. Harry did. You're so lucky, Harry, because if he had won, but I won just on the down low in the final 2, then maybe Harry would be more of a target for Simon. But because Harry only got to the end but lost, I think that they might have a good, thriving relationship.
Okay, so, you know what? If I talked at the time of Heroes versus Villains about how I disagree with Simon being given the villain label, I think now I've finally come around to it. That is diabolical. To plot an entire ORG to try to get intel, to try to throw a net out, to essentially trap 3 very specific fish in it. And he got 1, which is not too bad.
Yeah, well, that was like a month before they went out, and I was playing with both of them. So again, I love them very much as people. All 4 of them, I think, are great. And it's so interesting because I feel like when you talk about these hybrid seasons, I feel like the returnees do very well. But like a lot of the, like, not to get too much into the ads because they can show a lot. But there's kind of a bit of like, well, they're big targets, but it's like the stats speak for themselves. Like, even when we said that in Heroes versus Villains, and then that didn't happen, and we had a final 3 of all newbies, you can't, like, the newbies were also like basically not playing characters for so much of it. Like the returnees, mostly George, a lot of Simon, were like really deciding the action. And then I felt like the thing we didn't account for was like the length of Australian Survivor does allow more time for these big targets to be taken out. But in saying that, like, Mark wins on this tiny hybrid Blood versus Water season, and he and Sam control everything. Luke does incredibly well. And in US Survivor, it's incredibly comprehensive that the returnees do very, very, very well, even when they're just like minor representatives of the season. So I'm high on all of their chances. I rate them all, and this might sound weird for the Simon part of it, but knowing what I do about them, like, I rate them all very much as players in different ways. So I think it's a good setup for them, even if there's some threatening aspects at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to displace that from, again, the Edge of Extinction comparisons in which these returning players were like, I wouldn't say
that's the one where that wasn't true. But otherwise, in US Survivor, it's incredibly comprehensive.
But it comes down to, like, the cast that you are with. I think Edge of Extinction, Aubrey winds up on a tribe of people that are just immediately onto her and not on the shit that she's giving. And so it's like, all right, we're going to get rid of you immediately. Joe, it was like, yeah, thanks for lifting us at those challenges, buddy. We're gonna shut you down. And even with like even with Kelly and David, like they were sort of in charge, but they didn't necessarily feel like figureheads. And even then, they, Kelly gets turned on by one of her closest allies. So that felt like a season that was more dictated by the newbies. I agree that I don't necessarily get the sense here. Now, I don't know. We'll get into this. I do think this seems like a pretty savvy group to the point where we were talking about this. Like, I don't get any major red flags from these people where I'm like, whoa, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. Here comes the first boot thing. And I think even Australian Survivor has largely surprised with that. I think just due to the dynamics that sometimes shake out, or even the fact that, like, looking at Titans versus Rebels, for instance, it starts off with like, hey, the cool popular kids on both tribes get ostracized and left out of the first vote and blindsided. So like Australian Survivor, I think, does a better job of being more unpredictable, I think, about who does well and who doesn't, which makes our jobs harder, but makes watching it a lot easier.
I think as well, when I look at this whole cast, like Australian Survivor has diverged more than it used to about like having these big names. Like you go to the Wikipedia page and no one's clickable. That used to be impossible.
No, I see blue links everywhere if you go onto Wikipedia in previous seasons.
Yeah, an unlinkable cast is a very recent thing in Australian Survivor. But I even think like in those recent casts, there's been this kind of binary, like Titans v Rebels, certainly even more last year in Brains v Brawn 2 of these last like 2 newbie seasons. And this was like mostly a newbie season. It was this divide against like last year had like a lot of super fans, but then it also had people who were like really not. Yeah. And it wasn't like there's this like real binary, and we saw that play out in Titans versus Rebels, where there was these kind of like cool kid alliances, and there were people who were kind of more gamers. And I think this cast is more homogenous in affect, if I can, like it's a very people kind of it's not that homogenous. Like everyone's very quirky, but like everyone's very quirky. Yeah. Like I don't see the like extremes on either end, but there are big fans, and there are, I'm sure, people who know nothing. But I don't see this like binary divide. I see it as like a cast that has a general,
which makes sense because we don't have a binary divide of a theme. Everyone's melding into one pool.
Although the theme's never been like fan versus non-fan, but it's more just that the cast to me I came across. I'm like, everyone's super regional. It's like a very country cast. It's not a big city cast. I'm like, the Americans are going to learn some Australianism. Yeah.
I was going to say lots of bios of like growing up on a farm in Perth.
So many. It was crazy. And then I think a lot of like really quirky people. It's kind of like a boho, like almost like airy fairy cast. And that's like, and it's not like a binary. Like I think that's like very kind of true of this vibe and culture that I'm getting of the cast. That's really interesting. So we're going to get into everyone individually, but a couple of other things. It's 45 days. The shortest Australian Survivor season. People talk about it with 39 to 26. We've gone down from 55 to 45 in this new era over time. And that's how they should have done it in the US.
I think they didn't drop by attrition. Just chip off a couple days every season. No one's going to notice. Shrinkflation at its finest.
Now that we're like 47 to 45, we are shorter than usual. And the other thing, it's back in Samoa, which we've been at for a while. And the other thing I want to say just before we get into the cast, JLP was fired, as everyone knows. I see a lot of the content that comes out for Australian Survivor, like a lot of the comments are like, where's Poochie? And the JLP stuff is very much like in the comments. I want to say, I don't agree that they fired. Like, I don't agree with them firing JLP. I don't think that they should have done it. I've spoken about it for 8 months. Like, we had a reaction podcast. I hosted an open casted funeral. I also interviewed him for multiple hours. My feelings on this are clear. I'm not talking about it again. Like, I think it's unfair to the cast and the crew. Like probably one person or a very small group of higher ups made a decision that I think is bad to fire JLP. And now if we get so run down in it, then what are we doing? Like, if you tap out, that's fair. Yeah. And if you're not tapped out and you're here, we need to now move forward. So it's going to it's done. Like when I talk about the season, I want to be able to give it my focus, and that's what I'm going to do.
I completely agree. I mean, I am somebody, I know I this is maybe a different philosophy than others take on, but I know that like when complaints rise up, when there are nits to pick, like I personally like to take it from an angle of like constructive criticism, even when it comes to talking about the show, about like, okay, I don't like this happening. How could this be improved? Sometimes you just kind of have to play the hand that you're dealt. I completely agree that it sucks and it's a travesty that JLP will not be on Australian Survivor anymore, there's really nothing we can do about it at this point. And I do agree with you that I think it would be doing a disservice to not walk into this season with an open mind for David, for the producers behind the scenes, for this cast in general. If you want to tune out because JLP is no longer on your screen, totally understand. But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily constructive on anybody's end to fill every single comment section with "Where's JLP? Where's JLP?" It feels like it's, again, obfuscating the fact that there will actually be a season of Survivor to talk about.
Yeah, and we'll talk about David, like I'm going to be looking at how David's doing as a host, especially because it's such an interesting thing that they brought back returnees for his first season. Because I think when people were like, well, when David's the host, wouldn't it be weird when he has returnees? He not only immediately does, but it's people he played with and beat. It's, we talk about the Harry Brooke of it all, people who've worked together. It was against David and he won, he destroyed them. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic. We'll definitely talk about that. But we miss JLP. We love JLP.
Yeah.
Just assume I'm thinking it, but I'm not going to be saying it for the very small amount of time that I'm covering the season. And I assume for the rest of the recap bitches as well. But all right, do we want to talk about the cast?
Let's talk about the cast. And we will say up front, because the first thing I think we'll get into, because of the way this media kit is organized to some of our returnees, there will be spoilers for previous seasons of Australia Survivor, just because I imagine there's a lot of people who came in specifically after like AU versus the World, that epic season, are like, I want to watch more Australian Survivor, but I don't know anything that's happened in the past. First off, Shannon and I did a very fun podcast where we talked all about the seasons and which ones you should watch, but we're probably going to give a brief recap of each of these returnees games, and that is going to contain a lot of information about what happened in those seasons. So if you do not wish to know, for whatever reason, if you want to binge Titans versus Rebels and like the week and change we have before the season comes out, Dianu, go ahead. But we are going to be revealing stuff from the past 10 seasons of the show.
Yeah. So the media kit gave it to us. I don't know what the tribe names are. The media kit has it as Purple Tribe and Green Tribe. Now we're hoping we're hoping those are the tribe names.
That would be God. I would be. Again, I don't want to say the word obsessed, but like I'd be salivating at the idea that they have just given up all pretenses. So, like the theme is redemption. The tribes are purple and green at this point. I don't know. Nobody cares. Well, they're in Samoa redemption too for the fifth time at this point.
Yeah, I mean, why do they need redemption for not being like primary colors? Or I don't
That's true
because. When
was the last time colors need redemption for not making it onto the, not being additive to create the white light.
Well, when was the last time that Australian Survivor had non-English tribe names? Like, what are the tribe names going to be?
I think it might have been All Stars.
Yeah. Vakama
Makuta.
Makuta, yeah. So, again, Harry and Brooke can speak to that, but it's been years. Maybe it is Purple and Green Tribe. Anyway, no point speculating because we'll know soon. But if it is, that we'll never stop talking about. Okay, it's gonna be like when they called the tribes Blood and Water, and we're gonna talk about it the entire season. So I say we, but I won't be here. Anyway, let's talk about the Purple Tribe in the order they gave us, which was the men first, and they started with the returnees. And we have Harry first. Harry, who has a new cat shirt. My final two, who I love so much.
Has a cat, but not a child.
How do you feel about Harry being back?
I am pumped about having Harry back because Harry was a big character who played in back-to-back seasons. And not only that, but for those who may not know, Australian Survivor aired a season in the summer for its first 4 seasons, and then it aired a season in the winter, or beginning, I should say, of 2020, because they were trying to do 2 seasons of a year, and then COVID happened. So we got a lot of Harry crammed into like 1 6-month period because, spoiler alert, he makes it all the way to the finale of Champions versus Contenders 2. And then he makes it about halfway through the game of All Stars. So that being said, he is such a fun character. And it's interesting because as much as we talk about this theme of redemption being fairly enigmatic, Shannon, I do think there is kind of a connector for at least 3 of these 4 returnees.
The returnees is fine.
The returnees are, most of them have a case of severe bottomness, to quote one of them. And I think that Harry's story is being the cockroach and being pretty much in the minority. There's the first vote that he ever cast on Australian Survivor. He leads, he whips the votes together on the Contenders tribe. And then pretty much from then on for the rest of his Survivor career, he's in the minority, scraping by vote after vote.
Yeah, he is like the perennial underdog. I feel like with Harry, it's funny because he starts off and he has this big moment where he makes up that he has a child.
Yes, and then just to describe it, it's because he's swap screw kind of onto a tribe with a bunch of older champion women. And so he decides that he's like endearing himself to the parents of the group, being like, and I have a child. His name is Oscar. He's almost 3. That pretense lasts for all of what, 7 days maybe, before Ross flat out asks him, do you actually have a son at Tribal Council?
It's a crazy thing to have done, which is so funny kind of knowing Harry now because he's such like a reasonable person. Like he's really not like if you had like George did that, you'd be and like knowing George in real life, you'd be like, yeah. But Harry is not that guy. Like I feel like that was like his first moment on Survivor. It's probably something he gave to kind of get on the show and then had to do it. Probably it's really not who Harry is, but I do feel he is always the underdog and he thrives that way. So this might be a good situation where they're talking about him as a threat. A lot of the marketing materials, like who will play a dirty game, obviously his nickname, one of many, has been Dirty Harry. But yeah, from being swap screwed on contenders and using multiple idols to get through, having a rivalry with the godmother in Janine, still being on the bottom through a merge where they form this new group with like Luke and Baden and Abby to get back and then falling at the final hurdle. That's like a pure underdog game. And then even coming back in All Stars, he's with the Little Rascals. He's not like really on the bottom of his first tribe, but it is kind of against the athletes.
I mean, he gets 3 votes against him at the first Tribal Council because he's one of these people where like they'd seen about, I think, over half of Champions versus Contenders too. So the last thing they saw was Harry comes up with this whole narrative where he's like, I have an idol. I'm on the bottom. I'm going to draw all the votes onto myself so I can idol Janine out of the game. And so he goes full scorched earth at Tribal Council. This is when he says that his son's not real. This is when he calls Janine the godmother. And then there's a twist where they're actually not voting somebody out. And he's like, oh, shit. Now I've just put myself in an even worse position. And so people have this mentality of him being this kind of like sneaky individual who's very dangerous finding idols. So he gets in good with a couple of people who very much vibe with him in Shawnee and Nick. But yeah, they're clawing their way up from the bottom. He gets swapped into a position where it's him and Shawnee versus like this kind of cool kids club that he eventually has to break into by being like, hey, I'll be the decoy on the split vote. I'm cool. I'm one of you, right? And then he's able to sort of fracture that. And then basically he comes in with this locked in alliance with Brooke at the merge. They get bunkoed at the merge, and basically Harry's next up because David has this petty grievance of, I want to have the record for most consecutive days played Australian Survivor. And so that's the reason why Harry ends up finishing in 11th, 10th place.
He's a second juror. That's his host, by the way, that David did that. I kind of feel like it's interesting that he can be in so many groups and always be the underdog. I think less so in the All-Stars swap where he was the underdog, but I think he was with the cool kids. But the thing is, once they ran out of people to vote out, like Matt Rogers, whose brother is actually on the season, so there's a few connections. But then he was at the bottom because he hadn't been with the original tribe of like Brooke and Phoebe, and well, Phoebe wasn't there, but like Lockie. But I think he was with that group. Like that was a core group. It's just that he was kind of on the bottom of it, but they still choose him over Flick. But it is so interesting to see someone make it to the end of one season and over halfway through another without being saved by non-limbs, but yes, having idols, where he can so often, always, other than like pretty much just the original Contenders tribe, right? Like his first ever tribe, be on the bottom. So I think that he will thrive in this space where they're looking at him as that big threat. The other thing he had was the advantage where he could have created an honor limb.
Yeah.
And he didn't use it to save Nick. And like there was confusion about how that would work. And then they just went to the merge and I'd say David's alliance, but really David himself just decimated them. And now they're all together on this island in various capacities, Brooke and Harry and David. So I have faith in Harry. Like Harry does not play from the top. This is the best possible place for him to be. So I think it'll go well.
I agree to a certain extent, but the thing I love about Harry is the thing that's most dangerous about him, which is he is a very flashy player. You know, when he gets something in his possession, he will make as big of an explosion as he can. I bring up, again, when he had an idol in his hands, it wasn't just, okay, let me play it to make sure I survive another day. It was, no. I want to single-handedly decide who goes home here. So I'm going to completely demolish my social standing with everyone else around me that I had built up over the course of this. And so I do think that maybe there's a little bit of Harry that is the dog chasing the car of like, if he does wind up in a dominant position, like, can he ease off the gas a little bit? Because, what he talks about in his bio is the fact that he loves big moves. I've always loved playing with creativity and at a sort of higher intensity. And that's just me being authentic. It does make me wonder a little bit, sort of in that Tony Vlachos aspect of, okay, is he able to, yes, it's only 45 days, but still a month and a half at that. Like, can he slow roll it enough where they don't smell blood in the water and they're like, uh-oh, Dirty Harry's up to his old tricks. We got to nip that in the bud.
Well, he's not going to be able to, he wouldn't be able to do that anyway, because he's here with Simon. Again, they are friends despite the ORG, drama there. Well, not drama. It was really fun. But also, if they're looking at these returnees, like Simon's bringing more physically to the tribe. So I think Harry will be a pretty instant target, but I think that Harry, again, can deal with being a target. It almost got him to the win in Champions versus Contenders 2, coming third, and he, I think, would have, won there. So it's that one challenge, which Mark can relate to as well. So,
well, I also think that something he brought up in one of the Instagram videos of like, what are you redeeming yourself for? Harry said that the one thing he's going to do different this time is he's going to make strong allies, which I thought was a really interesting take. He felt like
he has strong allies.
Yeah, I agree. Like, listen, Shawnee found dead in a ditch. Like, I feel like he's claiming like, I made alliances, but I think he basically feels like he didn't have a ride or die.
And well, Baden was his ride or die, but then Baden chose to take Pia when he was going to lose to both. So maybe it's about making an alliance who would just take you to the end.
That's
but
the
like
thing.
he did everything but.
He's like, I want someone to fall on their sword for me. That's what he's hoping to redeem himself for in this season.
Baden, third place in that EQ game, by the way.
We
really guilted him about how he didn't take Harry to the end to get it to flip back to us. So, okay, enough about EQ. But yeah, so I've got him as merge because I feel like he always survives. All of these returnees are people I'm going to back from a statistic point of view, and also just how I feel about them as players. I should be doing this, by the way.
There's Harry.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, there we have a PowerPoint that I've not been using, and I can only apologize. There's the whole cast. Where am I? Here. Nope. Where am I? Here. Yes. There's Harry. Do we have Harry? Yes. This is going well.
There is Harry. Also, probably the only person I know in my life who rocks a Washington Nationals baseball hat, which is interesting because I believe his girlfriend, now wife, I want to say, is like from Chicago. So I don't know what made him a Washington Nationals fan, but go off, King.
I'm getting deja vu because I know we've spoken about this before. Every time Harry comes back on the show, we're going to talk about the Washington Nationals, and that's not a name I know other than in relation to Harry.
To be fair, they weren't a baseball team until, I don't know, probably like 30, 35 years ago.
What? They weren't a baseball. What?
Yeah, some baseball teams, Shannon, have been around for quite some time, but I feel like the Washington Nationals, they were definitely added in my lifetime. Let's see. They came about in now we're doing why are we doing a research on American baseball?
Why are we?
I'd say it's a great question.
Well, now I want to know.
Let me take a look here. I believe it's also tough because there's teams that have consistently moved around. Basically what happened was that there was a team called the Montreal Expos in Canada that eventually sort of lost popularity, and so they moved that sort of franchise over to Washington. So it was around like 2004, I believe, is when the Washington Nationals officially established themselves as a team.
Okay, well, we know why Harry wears the hat. We've talked about it. We've answered this question, but like we don't remember. So that's what's happened.
I like this deja vu.
Yeah. Simon's back.
Oh my God.
Is Simon one of the people you thought needed redemption?
Oh, incredibly so. You could argue this season's entirely built around him from that concept, because even in this video, he's like, they're asked like, what mistake do you need redemption for? And he's like, how much time do you have? Because here is the story of Simon. First off, if you're on Survivor social media, you might have seen this man before, because there's a clip that pops up just about every 6 months on the dot of Simon and a young man named Jordy, where Simon has hidden what he thinks is a hidden immunity idol in his butt crack. and they have this very like heated rivalry-esque conversation that's not even euphemistic because he's talking about something that's in his ass and he asked Jordy to feel it up. But I feel like I just see that consistently. But there's much more to Simon, much more tragedy. Tragedy is a weird way to put it because Simon initially appeared on Australian Survivor Brains versus Brawn. I would say one of the few outright fans of the show. He was on the Brawn tribe, and this guy was playing from the jump. In both seasons, he fashions himself the immediate leader, the alpha male, and he is somebody who, much like Harry did in the very first vote, he's like, there's an obvious vote, but I see you, other person, as a threat, and so I'm going to get the votes to take you out. The only issue is it worked for Harry, did not work for Simon. There was a young woman by the name of Shannon that Simon was basically like, she has an ability to just win anyone over to her side. I got to take care of this sooner rather than later. He did not the first 2 times. He targets Shannon in back-to-back tribal councils. Both times he ends up caught in the minority. In the second one, he loses one of his closest allies. And so it's his first of many times occupying the bottom. But he not only finds 1 idol, he finds 2 in the space of 1 to 2 episodes. It is a massive rarity in Australian Survivor. And so Simon feels like he's on top. There's a swap that happens. He's still alongside Shannon. And so he decides to finally get some revenge. There's this big thing where like they do a double tribal council and one person's voted out from each tribe. And basically there's a group of 4 people that decide who goes. And Simon like stops the proceedings to be like, hey, Brawn people, by the way, Shannon was going to turn on us. So please vote her out right now. And so Simon thinks that he is cooking, not knowing he was about to get cooked, where he reveals to his closest allies that he has 2 idols, and they say, oh, he's way too dangerous. And so believe it or not, this man right before merge is so confident, feels he's in control of this game, that he is taken out with 2 idols in his pocket.
Yeah, and after, again, like being on the bottom the whole time and getting some actual footing in the fact that when the Brains could kind of decide between these 2 Brawn factions that split, they chose Simon, they voted out Shannon, his own allies turned on him because of his idols. And that, I mean, the 2 idols, like I think most people going home with 2 idols, like a James Clement type thing, that ends up being like the thing you think about when you think about redemption. But like that's like a footnote really in what became Simon's story, because back on Heroes versus Villains, when he comes back, he's like George's foil, but in like the worst possible way. Like George is just dunking on him for what has to be like.
Well, because Simon believes that George directly contributed to his ouster. And so he's like, I'm on the same tribe as George. It's time for me to get my revenge. So yet again, he takes a leadership position on the tribe and says, this guy's going to go.
He wasn't at the bottom of Villain. So that was like, I feel like he actually had some power there. Which is
cool. If anything, again, it's very reminiscent of the other Heroes versus Villains, where like Simon took on the very Boston Rob-like role of being like, this is a guy who can't be trusted. But that guy was able to help cobble together a minority that did the impossible and took majority in the tribe. You know, Simon gets embarrassed on a couple of occasions. One major occasion being the fact that the Villains tribe gets a reward in the form of a jar of cookies. And Simon finds this like nice little disc on the top of it that has this artistic ornate swirl on it. And he's like, this is an idol. This has got to be an idol. And it is even more than Jason Siska and the Stick. This is probably one of the longest running incidental fake idol storylines of all time. Where
it was cruel.
Where like he is, flashing it at tribal council. There was this whole big episode 7 tribal council where there's like, he's not going to play it on Stevie. He ends up getting into a swap situation where he ends up broing down with a bunch of these dudes and is like, I will give this over to Flick on the other side. And Flick plays it and it's a fake. And so now everyone thinks that Simon is like this huge douche sellout. So this cookie idol, I think is much more integral to Simon's legacy than him getting voted out with 2 idols, which is wild to say.
I mean, you kind of glossed over the episode 7 thing. Everyone, I think, has heard about episode 7 of Heroes versus Villains. The New York Times said it was one of the best episodes of TV of the year. And we talk about it a lot from George's perspective, but what George did was kind of humiliate Simon, where he was kind of goading Simon, who had just won immunity at Tribal Council, to save himself, although he thought he had an idol. But yeah, he was goading Simon into saving Stevie, one of his closest allies, with the idol they all thought he had. And Simon doesn't. Simon thinks he's in this dilemma between saving the idol and saving an ally, but actually it was a magic trick where George was saying, like either use up your idol erroneously or lose an ally, but either way they were voting out a completely different person. So he lost Stevie in that. And I think that was kind of like the beginning of the end, because then he goes and he tries to like become friends with these like big buff guys.
Yeah, he says that Sean Hampson is Survivor hero.
Yeah, and he's kind of getting some traction, but they're not like super into it. And then once he apparently gives over a fake idol to their ally in Flick, they just want nothing to do with him. And the crazy thing is then is brought back by George into a new alliance, the Vigilantes, and then is caught like really obviously trying to flip back to the big buff guys.
Where he's like, oh, don't worry, I'm with you guys. And then when he wins the first of a few immunity challenges, he immediately jumps into Sean Hampson's arms celebratorily. And they're like, okay, no, you're definitely working with your boyfriend here. And so after that first vote, Simon is left out of pretty much every single vote until he's voted out in 7th place.
He just has like no agency from there, but the jury loved him. Like they love this whole story. And I think that's Simon's superpower. Like when I say I have faith in all these players and people say, Simon, really? It's like, firstly, yes, both of those games didn't go well. But I think he's a better player than both of those games would suggest. I think the thing with Simon is like when he's trying to be in with these big buff guys, like that is not Simon. Like he is a giant puppy dog nerd trapped in a big buff guy's body. Like he is meant to be there organizing ORGs a month before he goes out to play with these. Like he's so passionate. I kind of feel like when you're like a cool kid, apathy is the name of the game. That's not Simon. He cares too much. He's our people. And that's why he gets overly excitable and then he kind of falls over himself. I think he was like, oh my God, I have a cookie idol was just a clue. But like, he's trying to work with these guys and they don't want him anyway, let alone all the shenanigans with the cookie idol. So I think with Simon, like working with someone like Harry, someone who wants to game and all, like that's Simon's people. It's our people. And I love Simon for that. And I do think that he can improve on these performances, like I've always really enjoyed podcasting with him. And that's the kind of, Simon is the kind of person where you're like, hey, do you want to do this podcast? And then he like calls me and he's like, here's the song I wrote for the podcast. And he's like playing his guitar. Like Simon gives everything. And that's, I think, what we kind of do in this fandom. That's what I definitely do. And that's why I relate so much to him. So you don't want to, like, the big strong, that's not him. Like, he wants to be with the weirdos. And I say that with the most love possible.
Yeah, I mean, Simon, I think one of his opening confessionals in Heroes versus Villains is like, he throws himself into anything he tries at, and he usually succeeds. Survivor is one of maybe the exceptions to that rule. Now, he in his bio calls himself the worst player in Australian Survivor history. I would disagree with that, because listen, he does make a deep cut into the game in both seasons, relatively speaking. And that's the other thing as well, is that like Simon is a very physical player, especially, in Heroes versus Villains. There were a number of times where he won in that episode 7 Tribal Council. He would have gone if he didn't win this sort of last minute impromptu challenge that gets thrown in. And so if his neck is on the line, he does have the capacity to save himself at points. Like he is very skilled in these challenges. And I do think that it's weird to say like the embarrassments you suffer and make for a great reputation, but like I think he is probably the least dangerous out of the 4 returnees from a perception perspective. It's not like people are necessarily fearing Simon, the man that was duped by a decoration. I think that's really going to help endear Simon to people, as long as he's not taking something out of the playbook that he did the first 2 times, which is like, all right, everybody, don't worry, I've got control of the camp. Because especially now being a returnee with newbies, that is pretty much assumed. Now, unless this is a Boston Rob thing where it's like, no, please be the leader, I think he would take that mantle handily. But I think that this is someone who has been incredibly heartened by the experiences and mistakes he's made prior. He's also had a lot go on in his life. He's, gotten married. He's had a child now. And so I do feel like Simon is approaching this 3rd season in a different headspace, which makes me feel a certain way because, like, not to say I am celebrating the misery of Simon, but he has such a great arc in Heroes versus Villains. Like the jury, it was very much tuning in to be like, how is Simon going to be completely out of the loop this time? And so if he does well, I'm so happy for him, but I'm a little bit like, I kind of wanted that rerun. I like the acceleration of the character arc, and I'm hopeful that's the case with Simon. And I do think he actually has some very high prospects if he's able to improve upon essentially trusting the wrong people blindly. But there is a part of me that's like, I need to see Simon bottom out a little bit. It's not a Survivor season without Simon the bottom.
I completely disagree. Like, I feel like for me, like, I actually care about the redemption theme for Simon getting some redemption, because it was hard for Simon, you know, like, and being the butt of the joke, and now these puns can probably end, but like, he was getting a lot of hate. You can, you know, listen to his deep dive that we did after Heroes versus Villains, like being relentlessly dragged and getting like actual hate because the internet has no chill was very hard for him, and only speaks to Simon's puppy dogness and enthusiasm and love for this game, that just a couple of years later he would come back after an experience for him that was incredibly mentally difficult. So for me, I'd love to see some redemption. The fact that he keeps putting himself out there, like,
yeah,
it's wild.
For,
like,
for an experience that as you mentioned, I mean, I think you bring up a really good point that like probably very emotionally hurt him both on the island and off. But as he brings up in his bio, like, he's an incredibly resilient person. I cannot imagine how hard it was for him, especially in Heroes versus Villains, when it was like Sisyphus, right? And some of that was by his own doing, but being like, finally get some traction, slip right down to the bottom again. But the fact that he was able to make it as far as he did, I think speaks to that tenacity that, again, he throws himself into everything. Just because he's the odd man out does not mean he's going to work every single angle, which I think also helps a lot here as well. That I think even if he winds up in a situation where his back is against the wall, he's done a fairly good job, with a couple of exceptions, of fighting his way out of it, either physically, strategically, or both.
Yeah, so I have him post-merge. I think he's physically very necessary at the beginning. I haven't looked really at the tribe matchups, but I'm here for the redemption. I'm not here for another Cookie Idol thing. It was great TV, but I'm absolutely rooting for Simon. So
now, are we going to get one of those customary rewards that's like everyone gets something from home, and for these people it's going to be like, what's a token that reminds you of how you need to redeem yourself? Like, is Simon going to get the two? Is he going to get the 2 idols or the Cookie Idol? James got the 2 idols in Heroes versus Villains.
Yeah, I mean, then that's 2 things. I know he has them like framed. I don't think you want to bring them out to Samoa. You'd kind of wreck it. But actually, what we wanted to do, because usually we have little gimmicks of what we say, like we'll be their merch, or and this time we were going to say for every single person, we're trying to find their redemption story. If Harry almost won, didn't, feels fair. Simon speaks for itself. It's going to get a little trickier now that we're getting to the newbies. This is Richard. He's a CEO. He's our first newbie that we're talking about. I don't have a redemption story for Richard. He seems very successful. Like, his whole thing is he's a CEO.
Yeah,
where's the redemption here?
So he's worked in corporate strategy and investment banking. I guess is this idea of like he was climbing his way up the corporate ladder for so long, and so he wants redemption for all the work he's put in. But again, like you said, the payoff is there. He's the CEO. Unless he feels like he was like snubbed on a major negotiation or something. That was the only thing I could come up with, of like, there was a deal that didn't go through and it's been keeping me awake at night.
What a story worth investing in. Peter checked him out on LinkedIn, and he was like, he's a big deal. He was managing director at News Corp. He was CEO of a company that was acquired for $135 million.
Maybe that's his redemption. He thought it should be acquired for $136 million.
Oh, and that's relatable.
I could have squeezed more money out of him.
The interesting thing about Richard is he was the first newbie I looked at, obviously, and he really is not in the theme of the cast. I like the way I just spoke about it. Like, he is like a city guy. It's not personal. It's business type of person. So
I mean, see this every season, right? Like, they love to cast the older, at least douche presenting guys in the suit. And Richard talks about, right, trying to like class up the joint with what he's wearing. But for what it's worth, and again, from a physicality perspective, I think especially this is a pretty equitable cast. Like, this guy is an ultra marathon runner. Like, he's got cardio and endurance for days. And so I don't necessarily see him falling into a category like Kent from last season, Brains versus Brawn, for example, where it's like, this guy's going to be the CEO of the tribe and he's going to rub people the wrong way. I don't really get that vibe from the little I know about Richard. But as you mentioned, people are looking for behaviors that don't necessarily vibe with perhaps a more down-to-earth, rural coded cast. Richard does kind of stick out there.
Yeah, I mean, he has 2 teenage daughters. He's 46. We do have a few people in this cast who kind of are older, who have older kids. I still have him pre-merge because I kind of feel like that shtick is obvious. And it doesn't really vibe with this cast. But We have to come up with a fake like, what is it? So it should have been 136 million.
Yeah, I think it's that he felt like he got nickeled and dimed, that he should have gone for a higher amount.
Yeah, he seems to be a fan. He has Survivor references on his LinkedIn. So that's
really?
how you know it really well. He said like the Titans and the Rebels. It was complete. It wasn't in.
I was gonna say we have to sort of go down the iceberg of like how deep are the references.
Yeah, I mean he knows there was a season named Titans v Rebels, but yeah, we're gonna have
level.
We have the media kit for these newbies. We have with the social media stalking, and then some of the videos that they put.
Yeah, I will also say I guess I haven't really formulated this conclusion. I feel like Australian Survivor cast specifically are a very Instagram coded cast. The media kit we're looking at only has their Instagram handles labeled. Maybe it's because they typically cast sometimes celebrities, more influencery types than US Survivor, but I just didn't really think about that considering that, again, I'm used to for years US survivors communicating via Twitter mainly or other platforms.
Yeah, I mean last year's cast I feel like is really on Twitter. But it's really not where we live. So, okay, we'll move on. Some people have more than others. This is Jackson.
Let's talk about Jackson, speaking about somebody that we have more on.
He's a pro wrestler. He's 24. He seems to be something of a wrestling protege of Matt Wahlberg, who worked very closely with Harry.
Which is interesting, yeah, because... Right? Well, first off, that was one of the people that got screwed over by Harry playing an idol. They split the votes between them because, Matt Wahlberg, who's more colloquially known as Grayson Waller, made a huge cut in the WWE. And then, I saw him give an interview where he talks about like Jackson and his partner ended up like staying with him. And so he says like
for 6 weeks, I think he said.
Yeah, these guys are like up and comers. I mean, I guess his routine is that him and his partner go into the ring and their intro is going da 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 da, and so he's gonna sneak that into every single moment that he can. The thing about Jackson for me is that his stage name, his wrestling name, is Scott Green, and sir, like talk about leaving money on the table. No offense, Richard. Like your name is Jackson Goonray. That is such a better wrestling name than Scott Green.
Is Scott Green a reference?
No, it's just an incredibly I mean, like, again, Matt is Grayson Waller. Like, people sometimes pick these stage names to go by, but Jackson picked the most blasé milquetoast wrestling name.
That's someone who works with Richard in the investment banking. Like,
exactly.
I thought the wrestling names were like, I don't know, like, I can't think of one now, but you know what I mean?
The Rock, the Undertaker.
Yeah, The Rock. Thank you. The Rock. Thank you. Yeah, The Rock or The Stick or I don't know, something. That's a name.
Stick did not last long in WWE.
You get, I guess, Snap Like a Twig is pretty much speaks for itself. This is why I'm not coming up with that, but it's better than Scott Green. I didn't realize they were just like government names.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, no, this is maybe for tax purposes. It's like, all right, I'm redeeming my tax fraud by finally getting money to pay the IRS. But so Jackson's story is that he was going to school for psychology, right? And then he ends up dropping out of university. He was sort of living two separate lives, wanting to pursue wrestling on the side. And he's like, okay, let me fully commit at this point. No kayfabe. But he does have that background, which I think is interesting. And I do think, again, I'm not doing pre-merge, post-merge stuff because maybe I don't want to reveal my hand for a future podcast we're doing. But I actually have pretty high prospects for Jackson because I think despite Jackson building a career out of being over the top and flashy, I think he has that capacity to him. But I also think like he has the ability to maybe channel Scott Green and be a little more reserved and be able to peer a little bit more into human behavior than just, hey, I'm the big character that everyone's going to gobble up from day 1 to day 45.
What, so Scott Green, his persona is more chill?
No, I mean, if you watch what he wears, definitely not. But I feel like the name sounds more chill.
Well, I mean, he talks about wrestling as storytelling, which from what I understand from that one time I was on the wrestling podcast is a big part of that. I have him as post-merge because I'm just like, I don't really see why not. He's obviously very physical. He has, 3 years of psychology is good. All of his wrestling promos are Survivor themed now, but I don't really understand.
Yes, he holds up a parchment with the name of, I guess, either the person he's wrestling against. Like if you watch his Instagram, it's like
what, just like Jack Smith.
Yeah, it's like 5 of the same image. Again, take the most blasé names you've ever heard and write them down on a piece of paper. So this guy is also into it. And I don't want to look too much into that because like for all you know, it's just him trying to capitalize on like the 2 episodes that he's around and he's like, hey, watch me on Survivor. But it's clear that he's like incredibly into the showmanship of it all. So I do feel like the longer he lasts, we're going to get a lot from him because I feel like he knows how to cut a promo. They don't need to cut a promo. He'll do it for you.
I do wonder if this will be okay for Harry to have that connection.
I think it's fine. It's been more than 5 years.
Oh no, I think Harry and Matt Wahlberg are like good friends.
Yeah.
Or are definitely friends. Like I don't think it's bad blood. He has to play his own idol. Like they work together. Yeah. I think this is a good thing for Harry.
I think so as well. And I think that, Jackson, nothing really sticks out. The only reason I could see him maybe getting a boot at some point is like, again, not to go too much back to Brains versus Bronze 2, but if he goes like full Mad Max and it's like, I got to do a bunch of stuff and just decides to be way too out in the open, then he becomes untrustworthy. But I feel like he could settle back a bit before he finally takes him down from the top rope.
Well, we have a lot of people who might be doing crazy stuff. This is Cameron. He's not really one of those people. Oh wait, what was Jackson's redemption story?
Maybe Jackson's
redemption. He lost at wrestling, right?
Yeah, maybe it's that one of the many people he called out he lost to. Maybe it's that he had this big audition for WWE and he blew it. He was doing da 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 da, and he broke a finger, and he can't do it with a crook on his hand. So this time he's ready to play the straight and narrow and be number one.
Call him Captain Hook. That'd be way better.
Oh yeah, Scott Green, Captain Hook.
It's better. Because we have Cameron. He's an MMA fighter. He's 26.
The redemption story is very, very clear if you look into his MMA record, which is 0-4.
Well, that's the whole thing. Is his redemption is from fight losses. So I'm like, do we only have losers? Like, do we just have like people who are terrible at their jobs? That's my point.
To be fair, people who are athletes for a living and lost are still much more athletic than you or I. So it's like a relative scale for losers.
That's not unfair because I'm not trying to be athletic. Firstly, I am pregnant. That's the whole reason that I'm. Secondly, that's not fair. Like I'm doing podcasting, like that's where I'm trying to, if I'm a failure as a podcaster, which your mileage may vary, that's different. But they put themselves out there in this jurisdiction, in these sports. Like, they got a bunch of losers, I think, because they had to from a redemption standpoint. So, 0-4 for Cameron. Poor Cameron. He does seem like a really nice guy. So now I actually feel really bad.
There's a video of like, what would you do with the money? He's like, I want to buy a house for my mother in Gambia. Like,
well, I obviously now feel like a complete bitch. Like, also, there's this whole thing that he and his friend go. And they do a free barbecue at random places and give people snags. Did you know what a snag was?
Yeah, snag is a sausage.
Okay, you already knew that. Because I'm like, I feel like you're going to learn a lot of words in this season. But you knew snag. But he's so nice. He's giving people free meat.
Yeah, I do feel like this is going to be the classic trope of like the meat man with the heart of gold. Like, I almost... Part of me kind of
feels Man, like that's a great wrestling name. Meat Man with the heart of gold. There's a
Meat Man, but I kind of feel like from what I've been seeing, Cameron might be too nice for this game. Now, Watchy comes in and like is way too cutthroat, but I don't know. I don't necessarily see that, which is weird because he kicks people in the face for a living, but I don't really see that streak in him. Maybe he's overcompensating.
Well, maybe that's what will come out in the challenges, but you can't, you have to be in the attack zone to be kicking people in the face. But I also had the exact same thing where I didn't pre-merge because he's too nice. And yet I just called him a loser like 5 times and defended it when you argued against him. You're trying to rile
him up. You're trying to push him to that line.
Yeah, kick me in the face, meat man. He seems lovely. But I do worry for him. He's a youth worker as well. God damn it, Cameron, please. What is he just saving puppies and kittens and losing at MMA fights? Anyway.
Maybe that's why he loses. He's spending too much time concentrating on helping other people.
Yeah, he lost all of his matches because he was helping, he was late. He was helping an old lady.
Yeah, like Jose Canseco, I was saving somebody from a fire. I'm sorry, I was too tired to get punched.
Well, maybe that's why he needs redemption. Even in this photo, the way he's holding his own fist. He's an MMA fighter and it still just looks so... There's no aggression there at all. It's impossible that he's an MMA fighter. What happened was he was auditioning to be on Survivor and they were like, the next season's redemption. What do you have to be redeemed for? He signed up as an MMA fighter. He lost 4 matches. He came back. He was like, That has to be because look at this man.
I can think of worse extents you go to get on reality TV.
That's nothing. Yeah, I don't know if maybe it's just that he seems polite because I think he's British, like he's from London, but
he was born in London. Yeah.
So maybe it's more that, but no, I really just think he just seems like such a nice guy. I don't believe this man is an MMA fighter. I don't believe it.
Maybe he'll keep it a secret because no one will believe him.
He won't be able to because they'll be like, you need redemption for that. But like otherwise, even if he said it, no one would believe it.
He is wearing a Muay Thai shirt when I look at it, actually.
Anyone can buy that shirt, Mike.
No one's going to walk around with a Muay Thai shirt if you have no experience in Muay Thai.
Obviously, you would if you were pretending to be an MMA fighter, but you're actually a puppy saver.
But that's the exact opposite for Cameron.
What?
That he doesn't want to show he's an MMA fighter.
He has to show production. That's how he got on the show. Yeah, exactly. Pre-emerge Cameron, way too nice. We have Daniel. This is the exact opposite. Daniel's a pastor. We've had pastors before.
This man bears an uncanny resemblance to Hunter from Survivor 46.
He's like a skinnier Hunter.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a very similar mentality where Hunter had this like very soft-spoken charm to him that made him Mr. Reliable. Like he's building stuff for us at camp. He helps us in the challenges when like he was ready to be cutthroat. And that's Daniel's entire routine, right? Is that he is this fun-loving guy and obviously comes from a profession where he is supposed to be devout and moralistic, but he is like ready to, he's a super fan, so he's ready to play and play hard. The issue is, as has been teased a little bit in these promos and as Daniel himself revealed in his bio, like he's a little messy, just a little bit of a messy priest.
How do you mean by messy priest? Because I mean, you can't say messy priest.
Yeah, messy. Yeah, maybe it has a little bit of too much of a connotation with it. But like, there's a promo where he like says the wrong name when he's talking about targeting somebody as an example. So,
that promo.
Because I do think that Daniel, like, I have high prospects for him. I mean, pastors in Survivor, there's only a handful of them, but obviously, this shining example is always going to be Werner from Survivor South Pacific. But like, Shan is also a great example. Like, I do not want to talk about it from this angle. But like, I do think there is something to being part of a job where you are encouraged to, amass the hearts and minds of so many people. There's a good amount of skills that can translate to a game like Survivor there. And I feel like Daniel as well presents such a positive, cheery exterior that I think unless he gets caught in the open, no one's going to expect this guy to cut your throat.
That is true. And it's versatile. Like he's an endurance runner because everyone in Australian Survivor is an endurance runner. You might as well not even mention it. It's actually a prerequisite.
Yeah, but say I think he came in the top 3% of his first half marathon.
And that's really good. That seems really good.
I would imagine so, yeah.
Yeah, he also from his social media, he seems to bungee jump and play the cello. I don't know why that's important, but
at the same time,
imagine that. And as you said, he's an apparent super fan. What is the redemption story of this man? Is it possible that he he went on a mission to Uganda?
This could be one long 45-day session in the confessional booth. This could be forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Like these are all the transgressions that I have underwent. And so this is his chance to be on the other side of the partition. And from that perspective, I think that's absolutely beautiful. They don't talk a lot about the journey of Survivor redemption when it comes to Australian Survivor. I feel like recompense for your sins is a little bit of redemption.
I mean, like I was gonna make a Book of Mormon reference. He's not Mormon. I just and then I was thinking of
he's 2/3 Mormon. He just doesn't believe in the third book.
Well, that most people are. If that's the case, there is definitely a redemption aspect to Christianity, right? We say it's too.
I mean, literally came back. Yeah,
is that his redemption story?
It could be. Maybe he's copying that from one particular individual, though. And I'm also looking at his bio. He does say, I'm an absolute social butterfly. I can chat to anyone. I love talking. And I'm probably going to get myself into trouble because I've talked too much.
This is why they can't do Redemption Island. Because if he comes back, I mean, we did call like Cara Macedonian Jesus. So there is already, she came back. I haven't pre-merged. I think he's too nice.
Oh, interesting.
And he's, as you said, he seems like a messy priest. I I don't know. Is the hunger there? Is the fight there? Like, not everyone's Werner.
See, I think the hunger is there. I think he could take too big of a bite. I could see a situation, and I could see him. I could actually see him going far. I could see though a situation where it's like final 10, final 9, and it's like, oh, he took way too big of a swing. You know what? Actually, Daniel has too many people in his corner. We got to get him out. That's what I do fear for Daniel, is that he could be too much exposed, either due to his own play style or somebody else noticing it. But I do feel like as long as he doesn't step in it majorly initially, he's going to endear himself to a lot of people.
Possibly. So what are we saying his redemption story is? That he just like that he represents like the global Christianity redemption story?
It could be. I think it really is that on the nose.
It's like, what's it? It's like he is a pastor. It's like, oh, okay.
To be fair, yeah, as you mentioned earlier, I do think pastors as a whole might need a little bit of redemption, considering some things that have been linked to them.
Well, that's obviously not going to be on what they say on TV. Like some of these people will never find out because they'll never get confessionals.
That's also very true. That redemption from my purple edit.
Yeah. We have the women of this purple tribe. This is Lottie.
She's a Lottie fun.
Do you have a name Lottie in America? Do we have the name Lottie? Have I ever heard the name Lottie?
We've had the name Dottie. I feel like there's probably a name Lottie, but it's not very common whatsoever.
See, she doesn't need redemption because she has a farmer husband, because everyone in this season is, again, super regional. She's a young mom. She's 32. She's an artist. And she has, like, global fame as an artist. She sold a piece to Gigi Hadid. That was your redemption for whatever it was you needed.
But the redemption is she didn't sell it to somebody else. You know? She's like, but there was this other piece. There was this one who got away that I couldn't sell it to.
That's not redemption.
Or maybe Gigi it was like she couldn't sell 2 pieces to Gigi Hadid.
Is that going to be a thing for every single thing? Like, they had extreme success, but they could have had a little bit more.
Yeah, the exact definition of first world problems.
I don't know what it could be. She says in her bio, I have this quoted, "I've been to the city and done the hoity-toity." Anyone who's actually done the hoity-toity would never say hoity-toity. And that's how I know you're going to fit in with this cast, because it's not a hoity-toity cast.
And that's part of her passage, right? Where she's like, I've danced dirty at the pub. I can talk to anybody. I can win any room that I'm in. I can flex both worlds, and I'm going to. And so, I mean, I guess that makes sense. Like, obviously, the artist lifestyle is one of being a hustler, where you have to sort of like meet anyone where they are and convince them, hey, buy my piece. She is one of the people who I think is advertised, right, to be one of the most vocal against the returnees. I don't know if that's going to pan out incredibly well for her, because I feel like, as you mentioned, that run, in the run of Australian Survivor, we have experienced that a lot and has often very rarely worked out for them. But I think that if Lottie is able to maybe cool it on being as vocally anti-returnee, I don't know. Again, she's one of these people that I think is sort of this microcosm of a lot of people in this cast, particularly the women, which is like, has this farm background, but is in this artsy role, but doesn't have a personality that's going to stick out in any way. I feel like if she's going to go, it is that she decides that she's going to take charge of something too early, too vocally, and people are like, I'm not buying what Lottie's selling right now.
Well, it's true. Being like a loud woman early is not really a good thing, but I think
and she says in her bio she can shoot from the hip when upset.
Yeah, they're trying in her bio to show her redemption story in multiple different ways. So the first thing they say is, I'm completely self-taught. I actually failed art in high school, but I paint a lot of pub scenes. I paint a lot of rodeos, cowboys. I paint whatever I feel like in the moment, and it's doing really well. So she doesn't need redemption from failing art because she's a successful artist who sold a piece to Gigi Hadid. She has like 77,000 Instagram followers. Like, she's doing fine. So that's not her redemption. Then they say, she shoots from the hip, so maybe redemption from being someone who shoots from the hip. I don't know. And then she says, I'm repping the little guy. I'm from a small town. Well, that doesn't mean we can't go big, and I'm going to prove it. Is that why this whole cast is from a small town? Yeah. Is all of their redemption story being from a small town?
It could be. Like, I think that these people, they're conflating redemption and being underestimated.
Yeah,
with being a contender, with being a rebel, of like, people look down on me, but I'm ready to redeem myself. Which I will just say, it's not what redemption means. Redemption implies that you did something wrong, and now you're going to right that wrong, or feel like you have in some way, shape, or form. if someone feels like you're not up to snuff because of where you're from, it's not on you to redeem yourself. You didn't do anything wrong in the first place.
Yeah, like every like conventionally very hot woman on this cast is like their redemption story is like people underestimate me because like, that's not redemption.
That's not redemption at all. I will also mention in her video, they talk about, again, what are you going to do with the money? Lottie stuck out to me because she said she had a whole list where she was going to give her son $1,000, which I don't know if like he made her promise that. And then also
$1,000, if I got that, if my mom won $500,000, I'd be like, that's not very much at all, actually.
But also, like,
imagine winning $500 and being like, I'll give you $1. Like, it's just a very small amount of that.
Also, isn't the assumption that like a lot of that's coming back to you anyway? You know, you're living in the same house.
Eventually.
But she also, but maybe not, because she said she also has to buy an embryo for her friend's IVF. And to which I reply, you have to? What did you do to broker this deal? What makes this obligatory? It's a nice thing to do. You have to?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a very nice cast. Very nice.
It's not compulsory. Sure, you could extend the offer. Don't have that weighing on your heart going in that you have to earn it. Unless maybe her redemption is that she had to do something. She did something real bad to this friend. That she's like, all right, listen, I'm going to make it up to you. I'm going to go. I'm going to get $500K. I'll buy the embryo. I'll buy it then some. You can have all the embryos you want.
Well, that's too dark. I think it's probably just that she's from a small town, like everyone else. I have a post merch, and actually, the more I went through this cast, the more like she fits in with that whole vibe. So
she also seems like a very fun character. Not to get into too much of the promos, but it feels like they cut to her a lot. Like it seems like she could chop up a fun soundbite. She has like some Noonan vibes to me, which makes me excited.
All right. We have, I think it's Asha. I think that's how she pronounces it.
Asha or Aisha, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Asha is a model, so as you know, her redemption is against every person who's doubted her. Name them at least. What is every person?
I mean, to be fair, when you're in the industry, there's a whole laundry list.
No. I mean, there's like probably a literal, because there's like styling. There's probably is a laundry list, but no, that's not. Get better. What's her redemption? I need better redemption than people just underestimate her.
Yeah, I mean, this is another, again, well-meant person, because she's a model, but she also works for the NDIS, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Shannon, like provides funding to people with disabilities in Australia.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
she's nice too.
No, but she's also a really fun personality. She says in her bio, like, people, underestimate me because I'm loud and weird. And like, she definitely has a personality that pops in these sound bites that I have seen. And so she also is somebody who I believe is athletic as well, if I'm not mistaken. So she obviously has that in spades. I have high prospects on her. I do feel like it's also I saw a post that was very fun on her Instagram where she was doing a photo shoot and she was posing with a rose, and someone was like, oh, I thought that rose was going to be you on The Bachelor. And she writes, respectfully, F that. You'll never see me compete for a man's attention.
Which is really funny given the Bachelor connections we will soon talk about. But yeah, I mean, I had a post merge as well. I feel like she's a good age and apparently is used to being underestimated. I think what we're finding is most people don't need redemption from anything.
I think we learned that redemption is in the eye of the beholder.
Or the bio and promo maker. Yeah. I think I don't know if I'm as high on her as you, but like I can't see any reason why she'd go early.
I mean, maybe this is more so like a manifestation of like, I really liked her, and I don't see any, again, major red flags about her of like, oh no, she's going to be way too much. Like, I think she seems very quirky, but again, I think even we're talking about somebody like Lottie, I think like the two of them could really get on here. So I think she is someone who, and also comes from, again, a background that is all about networking, is all about, meeting someone at that energy level and trying to get their needs so you can manipulate them into your own needs. So I just liked her energy. I think I liked her vibe. I think that's what really has me high on her.
All right. Well, we basically just have vibes. We have Paula. Paula had some really interesting stuff in her bio. So she's an emergency and critical care vet nurse. I like that a lot because I think vets are the best among us.
Mm-hmm.
She's a croupier champion. Now, obviously, I have to Google is that how you say that? Because I'd never...
Croupier, yeah. So that's another name for a card dealer, right?
Yeah. How can you be a champion in that?
I'm so intrigued by, competitive croupier. Like, is it like aesthetic judging? Is there like someone holding up cards out of 10 of like, that shuffle was a 7? I'm not entirely sure. Is it whoever can deal the most cards in a certain amount of time? We got to ask Jackie Glazier. Oh, I guess she's a poker player, not a dealer.
We can ask Paula. She's a croupier champion.
Exactly. But that's incredibly intriguing to me. And also, like, is that in another life? Is that something she does on the side?
She says, I've dealt to members of parliament, I've dealt to royalty, anyone you can imagine that is famous, rich, fancy, hoity-toity, some might say. I've met them and I've taken their money as well. She says she's trained to read people. See, and she's a champion, so you know that she didn't fail in some sort of croupier assignment.
I'm intrigued by reading people because isn't their job, I don't know, I haven't been in a lot of casinos. I feel like they're supposed to be like the Buckingham Palace guards. I feel like they're not supposed to give anything away. They work for the house. They're supposed to be operating in a neutral state.
Yeah, I don't know much myself, but I also kind of feel like you're playing against you kind of yourself, right?
Yeah, like, and she's like, I can read people. It's like, do you need to? I guess she needs to read people to find out, like, if they're counting cards, being devious in that way. But how many times has she had to bust that?
We have a lot of opinions for myself, I learned what croupier was when I read her bio. So maybe I shouldn't talk about something I know nothing about. But she actually has a redemption story. She had to pull out of Survivor 7 years ago due to injury. Now, and I thought about this.
Yeah, I was going to say, so are we doing 7 years from this year or 7 years from the year she's playing, which is 2025? Because interestingly, 7 years from this year is 2019, Harry's first season.
I assumed it was 2019, and I thought that was probably good because if she was going to be like a contender woman, they got like 2 confessionals between them. Like, so yeah.
But that's, I mean, again, it showcases that not only is she a Survivor fan, but she is someone who has wanted to be a part of this for a long time. So I think she probably has a no opportunity wasted type of take on this, but not in a way that doesn't have her overplaying her hand, for lack of a better term. Yes, again, I'm still not entirely sure how observational skills carry over to this, but like, I don't know, she kind of sold me with the line of like the people that she's interacted with in her life. You know, like, there is something about her being able to carry on conversation with people from a variety of backgrounds that is like a base level social skill.
Do people talk a lot to the dealer?
Yeah, they really, especially if you're hunkered down there for hours. I feel like you really get into it with the dealer sometimes.
All I think about is when Joey went to Vegas and Friends and found his hand twin.
Maybe she found that as well. Maybe that's she injured herself because she found her hand twin and those hands got mangled.
And that would be a redemption story. Is this enough? I mean, like, they could have more alternates, because alternates, that's a redemption story. And I guess this is kind of like that. I was kind of trying to think about who replaced her in 2019, but I don't think I could name you all of the...
They all blend together, yeah.
Could you do it?
There was one named Casey. There was one named Sam. There was... God,
Sarah.
That's so indelicate. There was the one in the tsunami.
Sarah. And Daisy.
And then Laura was the one that Harry went for. So I think we got all 6.
Oh my God. Well, good. I mean, otherwise we need redemption from that, because this was meant to be my job. Like, I don't know I don't know anything about her or any of those people. So I know Daisy. I have a pre-merge because I feel like there's a curse on the 2019 women contenders that she was going to be.
No, she has them all back. That's you know what? It's redemption for the contender women. It's her being like, I'm doing this for all of them. They have formed into me.
How different that season could have been. But, okay. We have Eliza.
I love Eliza.
I'm biased.
Do you say it the way you want to say it, Shannon?
Well, I love the name Eliza. And also she's... You want me to sing it?
Yes.
Eliza.
That's so timid.
I didn't plan on singing today.
What, you have to warm up? It's 3 notes.
Also, Eliza is a writer. We love that. And also she tagged me on the Spotify RHAP that she was a top 0.5% listener of mine. Oh, and so she's in. That's it. But I'm super biased, by the way. If you're following me on Instagram, if you send me something like that, like, I'm all in. But I'm blatant about that. I'm not trying to hide that in any way. I'm rooting for you if you are rooting for me. Like, that is... So I love Eliza. I do have a bone to pick with her, though.
Okay.
They do these games on the Australian Survivor Instagram page where they're like, this or that. Yeah, she did not understand the assignment. She said both. She said neither. What do you think we're doing? It's this or that.
Yeah, there was one that was like that was reward or immunity, and she's like both. It's like, I mean, I guess good on
Yeah,
you trying to put
obviously.
yourself in the producer's footprints, but like that's not really the nature of the exercise, Eliza.
Yeah, I mean, often actually, especially in US Survivor, like it often is both. And but that wasn't the question. So I don't like when people don't do the question. But she as well raised on a cattle farm without TV or internet. Now there's your redemption. If I didn't have TV growing up, I'd want redemption. Then I go on TV. That's actually redemption.
Now, it does feel like she might be taking on the plight of Australian women, because isn't her like claim to fame in her writing that she like she's a historian and she's penned a lot of best-selling works about like the history of women in Australia. I think she says like I'm standing on the
Rebellious
shoulders
Aussie
of
women.
giants.
Yeah, rebellious. That's what she said. And I thought, oh, like Kirby, you know?
Oh, could be, yeah.
Rebellious
Rihanna.
women. Yeah, sure.
Kelly.
Yeah, we could probably do that tribe a little bit. Well, actually, could I? What was the? Why
Sarah,
can't I remember?
Sarah. Sarah was the firefighter, right?
Another Sarah. There was, and
I'm
then
trying
there
to
was
remember the one who got. Yeah, but I forget her name now.
Is it Peter? It was Peter.
It was Peter.
Why are we doing this? What is the game we're playing right now? What are we?
I don't even know. We're failing at it much like Eliza does.
Well, anyway, that's what. Yeah, so she as well is like the elements don't worry her, like country girl. She's an endurance athlete again. It's a prerequisite of being on the show. A Pilates instructor. I think that there could be some Haley vibes. It's like she has this like cerebral kind of, and obviously like that's like the absolute top of the list, but like she has this like cerebral job, but then she's kind of like surprising and versatile with those other elements.
I'm very high on Eliza. I think a writer is at its best when when they collect experiences. And I feel like Eliza certainly has done that. Like when you say, oh, she's a historian, I think that is incongruous to like the background that she has and the interest that she has. And so I do feel like she has a very deep set of skills that I think is what I like to see in a Survivor player that's going to do really well. And I think as well, like as a writer, we talked about this to a certain extent with Jackson, like storytelling is an incredibly important skill. I've just experienced this in talking with quite a few Survivor 50 castaways, that there's this idea of like narrative warfare, right? And I feel like especially in Australian Survivor, they love the narratives, both from a show perspective and also from an on-island perspective of like, I'm taking down the godmother, I'm the Kingslayer, etc., etc. I feel like if Eliza's with the right people, she could absolutely use that to her advantage. So I'm hoping that the end of Eliza's Survivor book is a happy one.
Oh, I have a post-merge. What's your redemption story for her?
I mean, part of it is like, I'm underestimated for being from the
book. No, boo.
Maybe it's redemption for a bad case of writer's block. Maybe it's like my editor had me try to get something in on time and I just couldn't do it. So I'm delaying it by going out onto Survivor. This is where I find my inspiration. Maybe
it's like I'm so used to being the writer, writing everyone else's story, and now I get to write mine. That's actually pretty good. It's bullshit, but it's good.
Maybe it's because she misspelled someone's name, and so now she's making an effort to ask everyone's spelling on every single parchment she writes.
As an editor, that actually would be very fair. That actually would be very, very fair.
And I also love the description of herself as a poodle of a person.
Yeah. What is that?
I'm not I don't have a lot of experience with poodles, so I'm trying to imagine like what is their behavior like, because she also describes herself as bold, brash, and playful. Poodles are actually toy poodles are small. Poodles themselves are bigger than you might think.
Well, I don't know a lot about poodles, clearly. About as much as I know about croupiers.
But you do know a lot about laws.
Yeah, here's laws. Lauren, we call out, how we do that with names.
Yeah, I was looking back on a Brains versus Brawn stuff for Simon's journey, and I forgot about the whole Karen Kez of it all.
Yeah, that's what we do. Laws is 46. She's a stay-at-home mom with 2 teenage girls and 2 cats. I like that.
Most importantly. But yeah, the big thing is that she lived in the bush with her kids. It's also interesting because, yeah, she is from New Zealand. And I feel like, I don't know, have we had players in the past who have been like actual Kiwis who have played Australian Survivor?
Is she from New Zealand or does she just live in New Zealand now?
So, yeah, it says no, she was raised in Geelong, Victoria. You're right.
Yeah. Again, very regional cast with her living in the bush. So she actually has an actual redemption story that is actually really beautiful. So
Yes.
basically, she spent a week in Tonga, which was included like 3 nights on an island by herself, which was founded by the winner of Alone UK, which is kind of annoying because
Oh,
we don't want to
really?
connect those things. Yeah, because people are always like, "Oh, you cover Survivor? Do you watch Alone?" And I'm always like, "No."
It's
But
like
anyway,
apples and oranges. What the? Alone is incredibly different.
but to someone who's never seen Survivor, you can imagine how they think it's not.
They eat
That's
more
why that
bugs on
question's
Alone than they do on Survivor.
well, you can imagine why that question's very annoying because it's like, no, like actually the thing I watch Survivor for is like the social dynamics, not the fact that they're alone. Like I don't really care that they're out in the bush. I would do it online, and I did that one time. But she did like so she can all do all this outdoorsy stuff. She was training basically then to do Survivor in 2024, which was optimistic. But the reason that she kind of did it was she had this redemption story where she had a divorce. She her father passed away. She lost a job, and she like writes about it really well on social media. About she said she curled up watching Survivor for 3 months with her cats, and I was like, real. And then she went to Tonga and did this stuff, which was not as relatable to me. But she said that helped her shed her skin and rehuman. And I thought that was actually an amazing redemption story. Like that's actually legitimate, which is cool. But she's like a huge adventurer. She climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and to Everest Base Camp while pregnant.
Pregnant. Shannon, come on. What are you doing?
Well, not that. And also, to be fair, I have said many times, people who climb Everest is a pet peeve of mine. However, I've waived that for how much I like Loz because she's really into female empowerment.
Yep.
She seems like she's like really into helping people. Like she like has these good causes. She's like Cameron, like she's a really good person. She's raising money for stuff. Like I do actually think she's great. But the Everest thing, like obviously was one strike. So we'll see. But
See, you
yeah,
say that
pregnant, that's crazy.
See, you said that she needs redemption, but again, it seems like there's a lot of things that happen to her. I don't think she needs redemption from that. I think life needs to redeem her. Like life should be the one being like, I'm going to help you. You've been through a lot right now. A loss.
I agree, but I can see how that story is inbuilt of like you kind of like reach this lull in your life. But the thing is, I do also think that she did redeem it, right? Like she like went on this whole experience, like that's the redemption. But I think that that's what they'll lean into. And to be honest, it's a lot more legitimate than most other people have on this cast.
I will also say I feel like the aesthetic she's giving off in her photo does not match up with the personality necessarily because you've got like the space buns and the light blue glasses and the overalls and the pink shirt and people are like, whoa, here comes a kooky lady. But I don't know, from what I've heard from her and even the videos that she's done, like it doesn't really seem like she's that out there.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that a lot of what they might be trying to do and what some of these like older women on the cast seem to be giving off, and it might be production led, is like a Kelly thing. But like I don't think she is Kelly.
She's not.
But I think they're trying to do that.
Which is so interesting because she was like the booted before the merge. Granted, right before
she was a big character.
She was a big character, yeah. But like Loz is incredibly different. Like Loz is someone who has been through so much, has been able to prove her tenacity, has a lot of experience, I think, in the outdoors, which is going to really help her. Like I could see her be, I don't know, I wouldn't say like a provider, but I feel like she might, maybe her and Eliza will be competing for like who knows the most about roughing it out here. But like I think she is someone who could get in good with a lot of people. She has 2 teenage daughters, and maybe it's a little bit of a false equivalency to be like, and she'll get along with the 20-year-olds. But like I feel like especially older people in Australia and Survivor are not, it's less of a story than I think on American Survivor of like, whoa, oldie, you don't get along with these kids. We don't get a lot of like Nate Moore, I don't understand the lingo scenes on Australian Survivor.
See, I thought of pre-merge because I said it sucks to be older and female and quirky. There are a lot of quirky people on this cast. Like it might be her people. I might have to reverse this whole way of thinking. But again, I really like her. It's kind of, there's a few people I'm like, I really like you, but I worry, because I've done this rodeo before. Not like all the people on the cast have done an actual rodeo. I've never actually done that, but I've done this particular.
To be fair,
rodeo.
Lottie's just painted rodeo. She hasn't actually done them.
I'm sure she has. Like I'm very, very certain she has.
You think Lottie's done rodeos?
Yeah, all of these small town people.
You think she's done it while painting?
No. Like I don't think you play the cello while you bungee jump. I think sometimes you just do things at different times. But we have one more person from this tribe, and here she is. It's Lyndall.
Lyndall,
I have some interesting stuff on Lyndall.
Oh, please.
There's a lot of actually really interesting stuff on Lyndall.
Okay. Tell me about Lyndall.
She's 35. She's a model. So she's discounted for just being a model. No! I will find something else about you that needs to be redeemed.
Find another flaw in your life.
I'm going to read a sentence that I stopped mid-reading to go to my notes to write it down 3 separate times. She's a poker player with an alter ego named Swindle, who once beat Mel Gibson.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's talk about this mad-libbed beauty of a sentence.
Yeah.
Because first off, her and Jackson get along swimmingly because apparently they have alter egos.
No. Jackson has a thing to learn. Swindle is a proper name, Jackson.
Swindle is incredible. Now, my question is, does she is this a Tyler Durden thing? How different is Swindle from Lyndall? Is this a completely different person, or is this?
Oh my god! I only just realized that it rhymes with Lyndall.
Yeah,
oh my god,
that's
only when you just. I realized that it rhymes with Lyndall. I thought it was.
You just thought it was out of nowhere, just oh, I'm Swindle.
I still thought it was great. It's a great poker nickname, but I didn't realize that it was Lyndall.
I have to give you a rhyming dictionary as a late baby gift.
That's so bad. That's baby brain, right? No,
yeah, it's gotta be.
That's me. Oh, it's even better that it rhymes with Swindle. That's a great name.
I mean, I love it too because Swindle is also such a unique verb. Yes, it's cute that it cheekily rhymes, but it's not like anyone's you swindled me. And she's like, wait a minute, what did you say? You have to take a couple of leaps to get to Swindle, but I really hope she channels it here. But also, okay, now let's set the scene here, Shannon, because listen, pre-existing relationships are not necessarily a massive thing on Australian Survivor. But my theory suggests is
someone knows Mel Gibson?
What if Lyndall is playing against Mel Gibson and there dealing out the cards in that fortuitous game was Paula?
But she won't recognize Lyndall because she'll know her as Swindle.
Yes, but then Lyndall goes down in flames. There's a big scandal. Swindle's cheating. The croupier rats her out. And so they have a grudge. They have a score to settle that Paula ruined Swindle's career. And so now she's back for redemption to prove that she has the poker skills.
I mean, not since we had competing beauty pageant queens in Survivor South Africa. That'd be pretty random. But look, yeah, I mean, she's had redemption for whatever because she beat Mel Gibson. If she said she lost to Mel Gibson, clear redemption story.
No, I think actually interacting with Mel Gibson is a redemption story in and of itself. I'm gonna watch that steak off of you.
Probably fair. There's a lot here with Swindle Lyndall, whose name incredible. She is called herself a bougie bogan, which is good because with this cast, take out the bougie, the hoity.
Yeah, she says, at home she can be found doing a photo shoot in the morning before an afternoon hike with a beer.
Oh my god, I hate everyone who goes on this show so much.
I also feel
no offense to all my friends.
You probably should not drink and hike. That just feels like I don't want to do any majorly physical activity while inebriated.
Have you been to Australia? That's kind of like our national language. Those two things completely. How dare you come onto my Australian Survivor podcast and say that?
Got a lot to learn.
Interesting thing about Lyndall, she has 90,000 followers and she's dating Matt Agnew. Matt Agnew was The Bachelor.
Oh, but she was not on The Bachelor.
She was not. If I had a nickel for each time the partner of a Bachelor lead, the current partner, was on Survivor, I'd have 2 nickels. Not a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Can we name Sam Frost's ex-partner, not Geordie, who became her partner? Can you do it? Was it?
So it wasn't Alex, but it was Alex's blood versus
Alex
water
was
partner.
Sam Frost's brother.
Yes, it was. God.
I don't even know if I'm right.
No, it wasn't Mark. Nathan?
Jay?
It was Jay.
Okay. I've earned this job. No one say that. I think it's right. Why have they never had a Bachelor lead on the show? We obviously had Lockie.
To be fair, we had a reverse, lead. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have had Geordie. Then went on to marry Sam Frost. So the Bachelor connections run very deep. I would love to see Matty J was a great Bachelor lead. He did I'm a Celebrity. I'd love to see him on Survivor. Then they've even had Bachelor leads we've had so many couples stay together, and they've never even had them on the Celebrity Amazing Race. I truly don't understand. These are all the same network. But
that's the thing, is I wonder if now, in the era of a lot of these outlets for all-star shows, like obviously the Traders Australia is coming back. Like we talk about that a lot with American shows of like Dancing with the Stars. There are now these funnels for celebs to go on that, rather than like, yeah, I'm gonna tough it out for 45 days on a beach somewhere.
I think Matty J would do it. But anyway, interesting thing about Matt Agnew, he's best friends with Khan, like best friends.
Oh.
Technically, Brooke and Khan did Talking Tribal, and Brooke commented on Matt Agnew's photo with Swindle Lindell a month before they went out.
Interesting. Well, too bad they are not on the same tribe, so we can see that Lindell-Brooke showdown there. But yeah, I mean, Lindell, again, sort of has a very...
How would it be a showdown? It seems like they have a positive relationship. She commented
I guess
she wasn't like, die, bitch.
Show up, I guess? What's the opposite of showdown?
Yeah. They'll just show up. I think it could be good. I genuinely think Brooke knows her. Like, I think that she's probably, like, she's in this reality TV world. It's not that far apart.
I do feel like Lindell and Asha are going to get along really well, both from that same industry.
Because they've both been underestimated, and now they're
both models. But what about male models? But I think that Lindell, again, has a very fun, multifaceted, perspective, where she comes from an environment that is about flattering people to get what you want, but also has a very sharky background. And obviously, I think Swindle is going to be kept in hiding for a long, long time. Not to us, to everybody else. And I do think that, like, I think she will pull that out eventually. Like, I could see her pulling off some sort of big coup, and we're going to see Swindle come out in full force.
Yeah, I originally had her pre-merge, but I think I will go post-merge. I mean, she plays poker, which often, I mean, it went well with AJ, to be honest. He did actually very well as a poker player. I think there's a lot there.
I think when it comes to sink or swindle, she's going to swindle.
I think that in a couple of years, when I say who was the one who was dating Matt Agnew, and it's another partner of another Bachelor person, we'll at least remember her name, because we'll remember that it rhymed with swindle.
But we're only going to think swindle.
Yeah, it's going to be like, what was it, Tyndall? It was something that rhymed with swindle. Bindle?
That's the thing. She's Tyndall? Not what it's... Lindell is a very multifaceted. It's not what it says on the Tyndall.
What are we doing?
Throw that in the bindle.
Yes. She wants to windle? There's so much going on.
Oh, swindle for the windle. I like that.
Okay, she needs merch, because that's great.
I think Lindell for the windle is pretty dang good.
I don't think Lindell would do that. Like, I think if Simon's name was Lindell, he would do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's what I'm saying. Like, I think Lindell's above it. But in 2 years from now, when it's another person, you remember her name, okay? We're going to come back to it. Was it Jay?
It was Jay.
Okay. Thank you. I need my flowers, because I didn't prep for this pop quiz I've given myself. Green Tribe? Mark.
Which is weird because the text for this purple tribe was also great. So my color sets were a little thrown off. We moved on to the other tribe, and we're back. Shannon, speaking of merch, it's time we wipe our feet once more on the diplomat.
See, we remember that, but we could barely remember any of these players' names.
Oh, come on. To be fair, the diplomat pings much more in my cerebellum than Jay and Casey and Sarah.
Diplomat.
And Tsunami Lady.
Diplomat was a triumph. And Tsunami, shame. I don't think, no Tsunami Lady. Like, that's shame. It was Sarah. Mark is here. I love Mark. Mark played in Titans v Rebels with all the rebellious women that Eliza writes about. And Mark as well, much like 3 or 4 of these returnees made it to like the very end and then got voted out. Mark went into that final challenge with like a 66% chance of winning the game.
Yeah, Mark was sort of the odds-on favorite. He had been winning the past couple of immunity challenges. But Mark, it's so interesting because on paper, Mark is a diplomat. He comes in professing this, career of international diplomacy, the ability to talk to everybody. And he was in a really good streak starting off the season. He is able to lead the first vote of the season, this big, again, takeover of the quote-unquote Cool Kids Alliance. He's in the Invisible Hand with Eden. He's in the Middle Age Mafia. He's in the alliance with the V's, Viola and Valeria. And then Caroline starts to observe how good of a position Mark is in. And then it really starts falling apart at the swap, where Viola gets voted out. Mark then tries to flip over to the Rebels and tries to flip things on Caroline, but then things go completely pear-shaped with Rihanna. And so he pretty much like lives consistently on the bottom for like the middle 80% of his game. He's consistently the target in the post-merge. For people who haven't watched Titans versus Rebels, it is far and away the wildest post-merge I've ever seen in a Survivor season. Like, even with Cagayan, there was a consistency of like Tony and Wu flipping back and forth across multiple alliances. There is no consistency to Titans versus Rebels. Sometimes it'll be literally Titans versus Rebels. Sometimes these avowed enemies declare all-out war on each other. Sometimes they decide to work together. Sometimes a random advantage will come into play and send somebody out with one vote. Like, there was...
And it was episodic. There was like not a 2-episode run in that entire post-merge. Like, I think what we said was like they would always form random equal groups. Usually equal groups, like a 5-5 or like a 6-6 of people that they were not working with yesterday. It made it incredibly difficult to predict. It's like, all I know is that this group will not be the group tomorrow. So it's hard with Mark because he obviously had lost so much power. He'd had so much power in the pre-swap. He'd lost so much power through the swap. And then through the merge, there's a bit of both, kind of like everyone had. Like, yes, there are times when he's going to like lose allies. There are times when he's going to get the Titans back together, which was unforeseeable.
Yeah, which is well.
Again, 24 hours prior.
There was one tribal council where like Valeria insults Caroline to her face. Mark wins reward, brings the two of them on it, and somehow convinces them, wielding that diplomacy like a cudgel, to have them work together for the next vote.
Yeah. And that was the diplomacy. Like, that was, as we're saying. So he's now a strategic advisor for a humanitarian organization. He says he'll be less moral this time. I don't know what that
this is interesting because he really has been coming to this perspective of like, I was too nice. And I don't really get that sense from Mark's game. You know, I guess maybe because things were so fluid in Titans versus Rebels, maybe he felt used a little bit. Like, he consistently, like, he lost Viola, he lost Valeria, he lost Alex. And there was sort of like a streak of a few episodes after that where like he was consistently getting votes because everyone was just seeing him as this big threat. So maybe he does feel like he's in more of a mentality of like, I have to get them before they get me. But I do feel like Mark was a victim of so many circumstances in Titans versus Rebels that maybe this is the weakest case of redemption for me of the 4 returnees.
I think that he was very loyal to the V's in a way that he then kind of like turned his back fully on the middle-aged mafia. And then he had like a long way to come back from that. So maybe it's like that loyalty. He'll kind of have less of that like personal investment and he might just like go where the going's good. I mean, it's still redemption. Firstly, he lost a game. So that's enough. And he almost won. Like, he's like a day 46, which now would be a win, actually. But he's a day 46, quote-unquote, loser. There's redemption in that. I think any of these, like, if you were to have any of these robbed goddess, fallen angel type seasons, like, that is redemption. Even if you feel like it was more the season doing it. But, like, it was a frenetic season. Mike, like everyone, you know, had wins and losses on the season itself, other than actually losing the season. So I think redemption here is an apt description. It's certainly more than being, you know, underestimated as a model.
Now, how do you feel about his attitude of trying to be more cutthroat? Not to say he's going like flat out villain, but do you think this is something that fits who he is as a person? I mean, you've talked with him. He's done extensive game analysis with you. Do you think that's something that he would just do naturally?
Yeah, he's very strategic, but I felt like he was like that on Titans v Rebels. So I'm like, yeah. I thought he's a gamer. He's a huge fan. He loves it so much. I kind of feel like Mark has been itching to go out and play again since he played fairly recently. And I think he's very hungry for it. And I think that he thinks about the game in a very strategic way. Which is
also very interesting because he is far and away the most recent person to play Survivor. Everyone else, all 3 other returnees, have played their 2 seasons of Survivor before Mark has played his first. And granted, again, the fandom level of this cast varies, but I do wonder if, like, the super duper fans, like, what will they find more dangerous? Will they find the legacies of these people from years ago, or like what we saw Mark do 2 years ago?
But he also, I don't know much if he has much of a relationship with Harry or Brooke, but he would be friends with Simon. They both live in Brisbane.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably good friends.
Unfortunately, maybe that's why they're on opposite tribes right now.
I mean, he didn't come play EQ, but I think that if he and Simon can link up, are definitely friends. I have in post-merge, I have all the returnees post-merge. I think all these 4 returnees have skills.
I think if any of the returnees would be voted out pre-merge, it might be him. I don't know. I just see an environment where people are like, we saw what he was able to, claw his way through in Titans versus Rebels. We can't give him an inch. And so, like, it ends up being a situation where maybe he gets swap screwed again. And it's like, no, we got to come for you right now. We're not just trying to, defenestrate you by getting rid of your allies. We're coming straight for the guy. And so, I don't know. I just see an instance where if Mark doesn't make the merge, he ends up getting sniped out in that way.
But again, he's so used to being on the bottom. Like,
yeah.
Even Brooke for the second half, like less than the other 3, but like the second half of All Stars is so used to being on the bottom. All 4 of these people know what it's like to be targets and survive. So that's kind of what I'm investing in. But we will move on to Dawn. A lot going on with Dawn.
Yeah, let's talk about the Dawn because it's the first line of his bio and they are selling the hell out of it. You've heard of the Godfather. Well, here's the Dawn.
Yeah, Matt Rogers' brother. As we said, Brooke and Harry. I think actually Brooke voted for Harry when Matt Rogers went home because he was that, like, again.
He was a split vote,
He was the split that he said he would be. Do you think the Don cares about that, though?
No.
Why not?
Not at all. I don't think Don was even watching that season.
You don't think he was watching his brother's season?
Do we know how close they are?
They seem really close.
Do they?
I don't know. I went on his social media and the first thing I saw was him and Matt Rogers' birthday party.
Oh, wait,
it's his brother.
A joint birthday party?
No, he was just there at his brother's birthday party.
Oh, I see. I thought you meant like their birthday party together. I mean, that's great.
I think that you can't have a joint birthday party when you're in your 50s. I don't mean to shame.
Don't tell him what he can't do. This is a man who decided to become a country music star, Shannon. Don't tell him the word no.
Siblings can have a joint birthday party up until what age? Is it like 12?
I say deathbed.
Deathbed? No.
Yeah, I think you could celebrate your birthday together in your old age.
No, I think you could have like a joint 21st actually. But I don't think past that. They can't be having like a joint 50th. Like that's crazy. That's obviously not what I meant.
I think it's just a great way to save on supplies.
For what it's worth, yeah, Matt Rogers is trying desperately to like save on party supplies. If I was voted out of Survivor, I would want revenge, I'm sure. And if someone voted my brother out of Survivor, I would hate them 100 times more than if they voted me out of Survivor, for what it's worth.
And I do think there is a very sizable chance that Matt, like, if there's some sort of whispering as to who's on the season, Matt's like, don't trust Harry, don't trust Brooke.
Shame. Harry was also fighting for his life, but Matt Rogers was kind of just
to be fair though, Matt was making the offer to Harry though. Remember, of like, hey, flip on us, vote out Lockie.
Yeah. That's pretty. If Matt Rogers is still holding on to that, I don't know. Move on, I think. But Dawn could be. But that's what I'm saying. Also, it's so funny that like the David aspect of it is so funny. Because David and Matt Rogers had that relationship as well. So like
that was sort of the interesting aspect, right? Where like they were working undercover together. They were, protecting one another low key despite being in opposite alliances. I mean, this is casting like straight out of 2012, Shannon, of like, this is the brother of one of the most, notorious contestants. And for what it's worth, again, it all ended up going quite pear-shaped for Matt Rogers, but like he was playing an impressively good game in Champions versus Contenders, especially for someone who I imagine did not have a lot of familiarity with the show. Like Matt Rogers is a good Survivor player. Now, granted, he gets blindsided with the idol in his pocket, ends up rather acrimonious in Champions versus Contenders. In All-Stars, he honestly was just like swap screwed at the end.
I loved Matt Rogers in All-Stars.
He was fun. He was feisty. I think
it was fun seeing him be an underdog. Like that felt like so like it wasn't a comfortable space for him to be. It was such an interesting like new angle,
right? Because it essentially, even through his blind side, like he was sort of the top dog, and then he sort of again was very moralistic and high on his horse in the jury deliberation. Like he was still kind of occupying that mindset. So yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued to see how that directly applies to Don, right? Like, are these natural skills that he has? Of course, Don has a very different career than both Matt and their father. Like, he did briefly play in the NRL, I believe.
Did he? I couldn't work. He was drafted into the NRL. Did he play?
Yeah,
I don't know.
He lacked the discipline and focus to excel as he could have. Like, did he play it all on the turf? Did he get cut in practice or anything?
I mean, there's your redemption story. Also, he was also, as a country musician, on The Voice, but he didn't make it through blind auditions. Yeah.
That's another redemption story.
Yeah, so this is legitimate. That's
legitimate. I think obviously the big thing is going to be, again, not to go back to the Brandon hands of it all, but like
hopefully it turns out better than that.
But the idea of like, I have to redeem my family's name, right? Again, not nearly as soiled as the Hans family name, but like the Rogers have lost twice on Survivor. Now I'm
no, I don't think it's that. I don't think that's how they look at Matt Rogers. I don't think they think that there's shame for Matt Rogers. I think that his redemption is like he's in Matt Rogers' shadow. He can't even share a birthday party with him because they're men. They're older men.
That's not redemption, though.
I agree with you, but I don't think that the marketing team have thought through what redemption might be.
Now, could we take out a couple letters and make this Redempton? Actually, it's very interesting because we have Dawn, who's going to be talking with a Dawn D winner.
I didn't know where that was going to go. I was excited to find out. Also, someone else was on Deal or No Deal, otherwise known as Dond. I don't remember who it is, but I remember writing it down.
So we had Dondi, but that was more of like an RHAP in-cheek thing that became an actual thing. I don't think people actually refer to it as Dond.
In my notes, I write Dond.
That just sounds like the way, like if you're doing Foley for Law and Order, and you're like, Dond.
Is it because it's late? Is this why it's happening?
It's so late for me that I've gone extended Dond tangents.
It's almost Valentine's Day. That's what I'm saying. When I said that, I wasn't lying. We started late. I knew it would go late. Like, I wasn't. Anyway, this was Dawn. I think that they're going to be like, I have to step out of Matt Rogers' shadow. I don't think they think Matt Rogers needs redemption. In many ways, he might. Like, he was on the bottom in All Stars. He did get voted out with an eye on his pocket. He single-handedly made Sean lose the game for reasons. But I don't think the show sees it like that. I think they're like, wow, Matt Rogers is your brother, and he has really cool birthday parties. Like, you need to get out of that shadow. I haven't pre-merged, but I don't really know why. I guess.
Well, is he the oldest cast member this season? He's 51.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to count when he doesn't get a birthday party. Because Matt Rogers gets all the birthday parties.
Here's the question. No matter how Dawn does, is he going to write a song about this? Now, they need to bring back the reunion specifically to have Dawn perform his Survivor country song.
I think they might bring it back.
What?
I don't know.
This is the season they bring back the reunion for.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe just for Dawn.
I like that.
That's that Redempton.
That's that Redempton.
What were you going to say before I said Redempton?
I don't know. All I've got in my brain now is Redempton.
I'm so sorry. It's the middle of the day for me personally, but we can move on. Everyone else is listening to this at a normal time. It's not.
No, they're not. Don't assume that.
Yeah. People listen to this to fall asleep, I've been told. We have Ben. He's 29. He's an AFL Indigenous talent lead. He played AFL, but was delisted after 11 games. Clear redemption story. He had a lot of injury. Yeah. That one's fair. That's fine.
Now, does that make you a little nervous for some of the contact sports that engage in Australian Survivor? We have seen a fair number of litigious injuries in the past.
Well, without Kaylin here, he might be in a better spot.
Oh my God, I forgot that Kaylin medevac 2 people accidentally.
We still don't really know what happened there. I sent Peter this article because I didn't understand what it meant. So basically what he explained to me was that if you have to nominate to be drafted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even if you don't get drafted, it means there are other I hope I'm explaining this well. There are other pathways that you could be in an academy. Like, there are other pathways into the AFL. But because he was injured, he just didn't nominate. He should have nominated. He might have been drafted. He might not have been. There still would have, and then he couldn't make it into other teams because he hadn't drafted to begin with. It almost seems like there was like a clerical error. I mean, also, clear redemption story from that alone. I mean, there's a lot going on there. Yeah. Do you have anything on Ben?
So, I mean, this guy's he's an incredibly interesting man. he's being advertised as like this big challenge beast, which makes sense given his immense athleticism. But obviously, like, this is another man with a heart of gold. He said he wants to use the money to donate to a domestic violence charity and a climate change charity. Those were like items 1 and 2 with the $500,000. But then, like, he also seems like kind of an artsy soul. Like, he painted a basketball that Shaq was gifted at some point.
He's annoying. He's too nice. He's so nice. Stop.
Though I don't know. He said that friends would describe him as chaotic, enthusiastic, and competitive. I also noticed, Shannon, you have to describe this phrase to me. I noticed a couple times in the bios, they refer to these people as lovable larrikins.
Mm-hmm. What's the question? You don't know what
does
lovable
that mean?
Yeah,
exactly. I don't know. I don't understand the concept of being lovable.
The best way to describe a larrikin would be like Luke. Like a bit of a jokester.
Okay.
Yeah, a bit of a free spirit kind of. I hope. Yeah.
Okay, well that's fun then, because again, I think you look at him on the surface and you're like, okay, here's another athlete. He's gonna his job is challenged. He's gonna be great in that regard. But if it seems like he's ready to like stir stuff up and be a little wild, not great for his chances of winning, but very good for his chance of making good TV.
See, I think he's going to go far, but then I think it'll be tough to win. Like, again, he seems so nice. Like, how could you let him get to the end if he can't? Like, he probably can't hide that. I think he's really tall. So he is very physical and necessary. It will get him far. But then he's just going to, like, so clearly stand out. So there are things like that, but I think they're, like, an issue for a later day. But he seems lovely. He seems so nice. Like, so another lovely person on this cast.
Yeah. Again, I think that God, I don't think we're in an era of Survivor where we're gonna get back into like the mateship of like the honesty and integrity, but like there are a lot of people that seem like they are that in their real life. But I think everyone knows what the game is necessary. What is necessary to not only do well in this game but create a good season. So I don't necessarily think anyone's actually going to take that lifestyle, despite how charitable they are outside of the show.
Yeah, they want to like be ruthless to win, to donate it to like the charity of their choice, which is actually kind of amazing. We'll move on. This is Caleb. This was the person who said, I'm not just Caleb who sits in a truck every day. Like they were trying to make that his redemption story because he's a truck driver. Yeah. No! Being a truck driver is not a redemption story. That's just a
no. And again, he says people will underestimate him as the tattooed guy with the rat's tail.
Yeah, a lot.
Not
going
redemption.
On there.
Maybe redemption for that hairstyle, Caleb.
Oh my god, I have the same thing in my notes. That is the redemption for having that haircut. So much going on with Caleb. So he has a pet python named Bauer for some reason. Why do I know that? Was that in his bio?
It was in his bio.
Okay,
but he's also a lovable larrikin. So then we have the battle of the larrikins here instead of battle of the big boys on this tribe.
He does seem very larrikin-y, and I will tell you, and in a way that actually causes me concern. So there are some really good things. So pros are, he's passionate about unloved animals. If he wins, he intends to spend the money on an animal shelter for local injured wildlife. Stop it! Some of you spend the money yourself.
Listen, I know you're not watching American Survivor much. Like, come back to your home country. Watch Australian Survivor. This guy could use the money.
Well, and he lives off the land, as does this whole cast. He's the one who was randomly on Donned as a briefcase person.
He was a briefcase, so it wasn't a contestant. He was holding a briefcase.
As far as I'm aware.
Was the rat's tail prevalent? Did it get caught in the briefcase when he opened it?
Well, I think that they probably didn't want to call him down as a contestant because then you could see the rat's tail. But if you're just holding the briefcase, you can't actually see the back of his head.
That's true, as we can see from the photo here.
Yeah, and that's why that's surprising. Do you know what knackered means?
It means tired, right?
Yeah. Okay. So he said... It's just such an Australian cast. Like everyone's going to be learning some. So anyway, I thought, okay, well, he seems great. And like the wildlife thing, obviously I'm like all into it. Thought he seems like a good country boy, like post-merge, he'll do well. But then I went on his Instagram and I saw a video of him fake lighting his hair on fire. I think it was fake. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah.
Maybe the rat's tail is all that's left of his hair after he burned it.
Well, that was the joke. Like that was how, but anyway, and then like other things like pretend videos of him putting like nails in his hands, and I thought, I worry that this guy's a bit of a prankster.
God. This guy,
and you know how I feel about pranksters.
That's very true. Listen, just ask Winna about that. Yeah, this guy is like giving a little Johnny Knoxville. I think this guy might be too much of a wild man. I mean, again, I won't go into too much of a promo, but there is a little bit of a tease of like, he's flipping between alliances. Like, he's in the middle of everything. And I think, again, he maybe has that spirit that could make him underestimated early on. But maybe this is more of the Mad Max coded person of like, he's just way out in the open doing these things. He's got a big rig of quirk to him. And people are not necessarily, much like a truck, he's going to have pretty big blind spots when it comes to the competition.
Yeah, they're presenting him like he's a bit unhinged. Like, they're doing that. I'm not saying that. I mean, I said it, but like, that's his character type. So
I'm watching. I see an image of him on Dawn. Like, he's just wearing like a big plaid shirt. What's the wardrobe budget on this?
I think you just probably bring your own clothes to Dawn.
What's the department that can take care of this?
At 10? No.
I guess that's true.
We had the styling team, but no. Okay, it's dire situations. I love that you're calling it Dawn. It does work. Also, it's criminal how good the haircut looks from the front.
It really does. But that's his game, though, right? From the front, totally looks fine. But in the back, that's when the rat comes out.
Business at the front, atrocity in the back. That's a mullet equivalent. I demoted him to pre-merge because I'm worried he's a prankster. I got kind of Max vibes.
I could see him like find a snake and catch it and walk around camp, be like, "Oh, I almost dropped it on you." Like, that could very easily turn a lot of people off. Yeah,
I don't like that. But there's a lot to love. Like, he's a better person than I am, obviously, in 100 different ways, but I demoted him to pre-merge. I went too much. Here's Johnson.
Yeah, let's talk about Johnson. It's a big reality TV crossover. We're not just talking about Dawn here, Shannon. We're talking about Bubba, Big Brother.
Yeah, he was in the final 3 of Big Brother in 2022, which is so interesting because that was a fans versus favorite season.
Oh, really?
So he was competing with like Tim Dormer. Well-known.
Did he beat Tim Dormer in that season? Or was that the one where Tim Dormer won? No, Tim Dormer won.
No. Tim originally won, and then he was on Big Brother Canada, and then they did this. Apparently, I did not watch this season. I tried to read through voting charts, which were very difficult. But he was on like with Tully, who is about to be on The Traders. Reggie was like a former winner who beat him, so he was in a final 3. And then the way that these seasons of Big Brother works is that it is like a strategic show fully, like literally strategic Big Brother. But then the final vote is a fan vote.
Yeah, popular vote.
Like he technically got as far as he could on the strategic game. He made it to the final 3 and then just didn't win. Though you would think that going there with Reggie, however, like she managed to get there, and I don't know because I didn't see it. Mm-hmm. But like that kind of feels like that was so there has to have been something went wrong there to just get there with Reggie. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like you played to the end of the game and then the fans decide, and who's to know, because she came in with a fan base and you'd have to know that.
Yeah,
as like
he was also nominated a good number of times. Granted, these went on for 10 weeks in multiple rounds, but like he was nominated like every round from the final 6 on. Like, again, this is a little bit of a different situation because multiple people were nominated, but like, he had his back against the wall. I think it seems like in this end game. What's interesting is that he says he's going to keep this a secret. He is not going to disclose that he was on Big Brother. Like, plus or minus
people will know.
I was saying plus or minus 2 castaways here, Shannon, that would know who he was.
The next person we're going to talk about will know who he was. This was in 2022. There are fans enough here, and there's enough crossover with Big Brother and Survivor that people would know that.
I think so.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to kind of track. Obviously, that's his redemption story. He's not the only person he had to lose at the final 3 of one of these reality games. I think he's actually a great pick, to be honest. Like, I'm a little bit worried about the Big Brother aspect, but there are other Survivor returnees. He's a structural engineer. He has a podcast. We like that. 54,000 followers on Instagram, I guess, from the whole Big Brother aspect of it. Like,
it shows that no matter what country you're competing in, Big Brother will get you thousands of followers on social media.
Well, probably a lot more both across both ponds. But yeah, I mean, he seems like a really fun personality. Like, I get a bit of Ferris vibes.
Yes. Which gives me a bit of pause, because one of the last things he writes in his bio, and again, maybe I'll do some research between now and the next time we get together to find a little bit more about his game specifically, but he said, "I can't be a bystander. I can't fly under the radar. That's not in my nature. That's not in my character. So typically, I'm someone who takes the lead. I'm someone who takes charge." doesn't sound like the guy who's going to hide that he has reality TV experience at all.
Yeah, that's not going to work out. But the thing is, Australian Survivor winners aren't under the radar.
Yeah.
So I think it's fine. Like, you have to like muscle your way to the end.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I'd say like Liz to a certain extent was.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but like that's not, I don't think that that's what the meta has become, and it's not concerning enough for me. It's not like it's like it's more often that you're not under the radar. So I don't think that rules him out. I actually think he's a really good pick. Like a good winner.
I think it's good. My worry is that he's less Ferris and more Nash. But again, if he didn't have this showing in Big Brother, I'd be more worried. The fact that he was able to make a deeper cut in a game that he claims like he was a manipulator, he was very strategic. Like, I think there's obviously a lot that's going to innately carry over here. I think the issue will be if he's too externally strategic. If he is too much of a number cruncher, then I could easily see people be like, oh, this guy is way too big of a threat. I will keep him for as long as I want the human calculator, but eventually I'm going to dispose of him.
But his personality doesn't come across like that. That's why I say the Ferris thing, because if anything, like, and Ferris like has a podcast now, I guess that's a similar thing that I see with like that big personality and like all the love to Nash, but I don't think he could have made it to the final 3 of Big Brother. So if that's what we're looking at, and there's some cool representation here in terms of the cast. Obviously, not as much as they ever should have, but yeah, I think he's Assyrian. Have we ever had Assyrian representation on any Survivor ever before?
Oh, that's a very good question. I mean, I would imagine maybe
let us know.
Non-English speaking ones, but yeah, English speaking, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. Well, last man on this tribe, we have Tez, who will know, I think, about the Big Brother stuff. That's what I'm saying. Tez is a big fan. Tez has Twitter.
Tez has Twitter. Again, someone who is, I think he has Instagram as well, but that speaks to the level of Survivor fan he is. This is the person you would find in the new era of American Survivor, who has now been brought into this Australian Survivor. There are types that have existed in previous seasons, but like, dare I say it, Shannon, this is our young, nerdy super fan of the cast.
For sure. And it is new era coded. He's a law student, so that speaks for itself. He's a big fan. However, there are Australian Survivor additions to that. He plays sports. He's a marathon runner, and he was raised on a farm. All of them. It's crazy. And he says he's determined to prove those who dismiss him as wrong. Like that. Well, that's not anything. He's not even like, why?
Like this one's, I'm redeeming myself to the haters. That sounds like complete backwards logic.
He's new era coded because his redemption story in that way would be like he lost at an LRG. Like that's the redemption.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. I worry for him though, because I think he'll come across as like an overexcited young schemer. Like this ain't the new era. I mean, it's a different new era. But
is he the youngest member of our cast?
Yeah, he comes across as quite young, I think.
And listen,
Jackson was 24 as well.
Yeah, Jackson is, and Cameron's 25, so he's not necessarily alone down there. Yeah, Jackson's actually younger. Jackson's 23.
We have Jackson, and do we have Jackson and Johnson? What are the odds of that?
Jackson. Well, remember that Jackson is Scott Green, so maybe it's easier to remember.
He should have called himself Waxon. It rhymes. It's way better as a wrestling name.
I don't know if I want to get in the ring with Waxon.
Or Smaxon.
I like Smaxon. I like Smaxon.
Yeah.
How about Swaxon? Swindle and Swaxon.
So I'll smack some sense into you.
Well, that's
it's so good. It's yes. You're welcome. You can take.
Do you think like Laws is Tez short for anything?
I don't know. I don't. Terry. It would be Terry, I guess.
But yeah, Tez is also. I mean, he even just lives that younger brother lifestyle in real life. He's the youngest of 6 children. And he has an illustrious career with law on the horizon. So I think he like has good skills. I think he's accrued from just being this passionate observer of reality TV. Now, I don't know if he actually has played in LRGs or RGs. I mean, let's call a spade here. Like, drop the T and the E, add the RIGOD, baby. Like, this is big Rizzo vibes to me.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I mean, just like super young, thinner guy, super fan of these shows. But like, Rizzo showcased in season 49 what he was capable of, especially when he was underestimated. Now, look, did it translate to great winning odds? depends on who you ask. So that could be another worry for Tez as well about like, even if he makes it to the end, is he just going to be seen as like this young kid who didn't swindle, for lack of a better term, anybody? I have more faith in Tez than you, I think. Because I think that, yes, he might be presented as like, oh, this guy knows everything about the game. But I don't know. I feel like there is something to this idea of like, oh, I got to take this kid under my wing. Like, this is somebody who's got a good head about him. He has to learn a lot about the world. And I feel like people want to take that role on. And I think Tez is more than happy to fill that role.
I just think he's going to come across as so schemy. Even if there are fans here and they say, like, he has Twitter. He said on Twitter he's been watching since he was 6, which was like yesterday. I'm joking. He's not that much younger than me. He's a lot younger than me. And he says Natalie Anderson is his number 1 player. So, like, taste.
Good taste. Maybe I could see an arc for him where like he is the sweet, unassuming kid for the first half of the game, and then he knows like to turn on the jets. That's the thing. I think if he, and look, this is not the case for every Survivor player, certainly, that their super fandom directly applies to their own set of skills. If he's even able to apply some of it in a certain way effectively, I think he could be in a good spot. Because again, we've seen these strategic heads in the past. If they have the ability to maintain relationships, they can easily manipulate votes together. It's just a matter of like, if he gets caught for it at a certain point, as you mentioned. So I think that Tez, and he has some fun quips as well. He says, Survivor will be like being at a Greek wedding. It's loud, it's dramatic, it's over the top. He really is new era coded. He has weird ass metaphors that he's pulling out. Like, maybe this guy was should have waited to be cast on Survivor 51 instead of going on Australian Survivor.
Yeah, well, the thing is, we get 1. You know, we don't have the whole cast, and that's my concern. You know, I might feel better about him in the US New Era rather than this New Era. But
I am also worried that less so about his performance, but more so that his edit is going to be about how much he loves Survivor. Like, again, that's more of a New Era thing. They love to talk about how much this is a big deal to people, but I really hope for everyone's sake, Tez's entire, 50 confessional set is not like, as a super fan of Survivor, I know that finding an idol is the most important thing to do once you return to camp.
He can be like, oh my God, as a super fan, there's David. How cool. David, yeah. They'll need that, right?
No, I guess if depending on his taste, like, would he be a fan of David is a big question.
Well, we're all a fan of David now, okay? Everyone on the cast.
It's a captive audience.
Speaking of, here is Brooke. Here we are at the Women of the Green Tribe. Brooke is back.
Brooke is back. Let's talk about Brooke here because, all right, so Australian Survivor 2016. I'm not spoiling anything when I say it hits a bit of a rut, bit of a slow section there in the middle, and it's due in part to the fact that Brooke has kind of a stranglehold on the game. She is part of this very firm majority that won every pre-merge immunity challenge at a certain point. And so, they had time to really cement themselves. And so they picked off all the outsiders. And so Brooke, at the final 7, was on course to win this game. She was also really good in challenges. She, I think, had won 2 individual immunities. And so she decides at a certain point, like, all right, it's basically down to the Core Alliance and Christy. And she says, all right, I think now we need to start considering our options. And Elle, who I've been working alongside, despite what the edit might dictate, is actually really dangerous. Let me try to make a move against her. And then subsequently, Elle and Lee, couple at the time, make the move against Brooke. And it all comes down to Flick, who's been Brooke's #1 ally since day dot. They were on the same starting tribe together. And in, I would say, one of the first major power shifts in Australian Survivor history, Brooke has like Sam on her side, Matt on her side, but everyone else comes together to blindside this power player. And I think it dictates a lot about how Brooke approaches her second season as well. But it is like one of the first seismic shifts and a moment that arguably when we talk about 2016 of like, okay, you got to stick in there until the final 7 because that's when things really pick up.
Yeah, Brooke of all of these returnees is not used to that much being an underdog. In 2016, she's in control like the whole time, as you said, until she's blindsided the final 7, like a really classic final 7 blindside of someone who was a presumptive winner, I think. And she does have those strategic skills. And then I think in All Stars, she's in power a lot. Ironically, David gets one over on her in terms of like where she played her idol and she lost Daisy. But that was still like her majority group that she had. She goes to the swap, as we talked about with Harry, but on the other side in power. And then he gets to the merge and meets, David's wrath.
She's essentially on the other side of that 2016 dynamic, right? Where she is in the minority and she's going up against this brick wall where she's consistently trying to get in. Nothing's happening. She's eventually the last of her alliance and she gets by winning immunity. She wins, I think, 5 individual immunity challenges.
Which was then records. Yeah,
she had a record until Kaylin broke it last season.
She still has the most individual immunities for a woman in a season, which is 5, I think, tied with Haley, and 7 across multiple seasons, ties with Luke and Kaylin, but Kaylin did it in 1 season. She was like the challenge beast, and she's really good, obviously, at those endurance challenges that takes her to 4th. Like that whole alliance is struggling through the post-merge with David being so dominant. Harry goes early, and she's kind of there with AK and with Shawnee, who go at various times. They get like a small win when Zach goes at that like Exile Week twist, but it's it's just like a slog, and it's mostly immunities that are helping her against this like incredibly difficult dominant performance from David. So yeah. How do you feel
that's the thing is like, first off, I'm really excited to see Brooke back because I love Brooke. And again, I think, I believe if I'm remembering correctly, all the way back 10 years ago, like, and this is also maybe another reason why she's cast, like, there's that great story, right? Of like 10 years ago, I entered this game and my winning opportunity was snuffed out from me. And then I came back 4 years later. Like, she has such a great resume in terms of just all the things she's able to do. She's incredibly physically fit. She is so charming and sociable. Like, she's not necessarily someone to like break down complex strategy, even though she was able to, I think, make do on something like Talking Tribal, but like, she knows game. It's just a matter of like the 2 times that she went through. First off, she was taken out because she was too good in season 1. And then in All Stars, she was basically just clawing her way through for the second half of the game. And that's also interesting as well, because like, Brooke was playing from the bottom, but it wasn't like she was pulling off any of these like big flashy maneuvers to do so, right? It was just, she kept winning challenges, and she may have been voted off, in 9th place were it not for this Exile twist. And so I am intrigued to see what a Brooke would operate in without being protected by immunity, if she couldn't necessarily rely on it. It's a very good skill set to utilize, especially in the post-merge, and I don't think she's out of step whatsoever when it comes to that. But if she does wind up, if this is a tribe where they're like, okay, let's gun for the returnees early, how will Brooke be able to navigate that, considering that like she can't have an immunity necklace every round in the pre-merge?
Yeah, and if anything, they should definitely get rid of her before the merge, because she's such a good endurance immunity threat when they get to that phase. But I have Brooke as my winner pick because I just feel like the stats on these returnees, like particularly Brooke, like she has a history of doing like incredibly well. Brooke is so nice. Like, having done that whole season of Talking Tribal with her, she's just like the kind of person that I can't imagine anyone saying a negative word about. Like, she's just so lovely. And she's not this like scary, daunting, like overly cerebral player, but she kind of just has like an intuition for like how to play the game. I think it's very social. I think she has all of the tools to get like to do what she needs to do. I don't know how like tapped in she's been. We did cover Simon on Talking Tribal, so she like that was Simon's last season. Does she know Mark? I don't know. She's had a daughter since playing the last time. I don't know if she's been super tapped in since then, but yeah, I think she's always a good bet. Like, I'm happy to bet on Brooke.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think more often than not, she's a good bet to like make the post merge. What I do find interesting is that in her video on Instagram, when she's talking about like, what would you change? She said, interestingly, the thing that she picked up from All Stars was that she was in too obvious of an alliance. And, you know, that was a bit of a thing, was that she had this flirt mance with Lockie. They refer to him as like her on-island husband. And so even in, you know, I would say season 1, there was a lot about like her and Flick together. And so it's an interesting lesson to pick up of like, not to say she's going to make secret alliances with anybody, but more so that like she's going to, I think, treat people a bit more equally and perhaps show a little less favorability, at least in a public way, with people like, no, I'm good with everybody, but you're locked in as my number one. If she's able to execute a little bit more discretion there, that's a nice tweak to make.
Because Brooke is always like in this kind of like battle, like where the alliances are really clear. It's just that often her alliance is winning up until like the All Stars merge. But I don't know that I would blame myself for that. Like I think it was this binary, like that that can't fall at Brooke's feet. It wasn't a fluid season.
Yeah,
like it was a very not stagnant. I mean, it's stagnant, yes, but you know what I mean. Like there was this binary, and she was just part of that. Like the alliances were clear. She's never really been part, like unlike Mark, like I feel like she's not been part of this very fluid thing. Like it goes one way or the other. She's usually dominant and other time or she was like really on the bottom. She's not jumped around. So that is a concern because that's not really what modern Survivor has been.
I feel like on Purple Tribe, Harry and Simon are going to be thick as thieves. How do you think Mark and Brooke are going to get along? Because as you mentioned,
knows Mark at all.
I could see this being a situation where like Harry and Simon, I think, will operate as a unit. I could see a world where Brooke and Mark turn against each other at one point. Either Mark with his new cutthroat mentality is like better you than me, or Brooke is like I just like don't vibe
gravitate to
with
other
this
people.
Guy. Yeah,
I think they could vibe. I just think she might gravitate to others more.
And she doesn't really have like a pre-existing relationship, like you said. I don't think she's involved in the community at the time that Mark has been. So I think like there's not necessarily an out of game dynamic that she's speaking to. So yeah, this could be a little bit more of the Wentworth David situation.
Yeah, I think so. All right, well, that's Brooke. We have Sally.
Let's talk about Sally.
She's a vintage clothing reseller, very spiritual, the yoga, the meditation.
Is she selling that gray or that green shirt?
Is she selling it?
Maybe she's trying to on the island. She's trying to rep her wares.
That'd be very vintage. I mean,
and it's interesting because maybe her shirt is speaking to redemption. It says you can always start over.
Well, yeah, I guess so. So she could. I mean, there's so many people on this season who need redemption. What is her redemption story? So she again, like this whole cast, like meditation, endurance. She's studying creative writing while working in her partner's cactus nursery. Now, I was very dismissive of this. And then I looked it up, and it honestly looks like a pretty extensive business.
Cactuses got to be taken care of. I imagine they're pretty temperamental considering the climate they have to be raised in to actually thrive.
And also, ouch, though.
Yeah. Like maybe that's the thing. Listen, I can handle thorns. I can handle these thorny personalities.
Yeah, and also there was recently a cactus in the Taylor Swift video, so I feel like that's being brought back. Business must be booming. So again, much like being a croupier, this was not something I knew existed, and it was something I was dismissive of. But like, I'm sure I'm wrong.
I hate to go back to redemption as part of a tragic backstory, but like, does it come from the fact that, as she mentioned, she's doing this in memory of her brother who passed away 5 years ago?
What come from that fact? The redemption.
Redemption.
I mean. So a lot of this is like she writes like beautifully on social media about her brother who passed away to bipolar disorder 5 years ago. It actually was like I read a lot, like it's so amazing. I mean, I don't think that's redemption. I think that would be a crazy thing to kind of tie to redemption.
I would agree, but the definition's quite liberal in this season.
I'd so much prefer it was I accidentally like poked myself on a cactus. That's just easier to digest, I think.
Or maybe she's like, I want redemption for cactuses. I want to prove that while you can be prickly on the outside, inside is sweet juice. And I want a big sip of Sally. Yeah, cactus juice is great.
Ew.
You drink cactus juice. Cactus juice is nice.
There's no way that's a thing.
Yes, cactus juice is absolutely a thing.
Okay, I did not know anything about cacti before this whole thing. But yeah, no, she writes amazingly about her brother, and she seems really sweet. Like my whole thing, she has a philosophy degree. Like there's a lot of pros here. But my thing is like, is she too quirky? So I put her pre-merge. But if everyone's quirky, then you want to be quirky. Then the quirkiest thing to be is not quirky. And
this is the quirkiest cast photo though, right? Where it's like the fun graphic tee, the pink sweatshirt tied around the waist, hair clips on hair clips, tattoos across the arm. Like it seems like she's a manic pixie dream girl.
Yeah, there's a whole cast though. That's what I'm saying. It's like the manic pixie dream cast.
Yeah, but Sally is one of those people, right, that is espousing sort of the Daniel attitude of like, the fun thing about Survivor is that you can't lie in real life, but you are here. And that's fun coming from someone who's studied ethics as well, that she's not like okay, now that I've done that, I'm gonna come in with a higher standard of playing. She's like, no, that's giving me more license to betray.
Which is great because they didn't know that in 2016 Survivor, and they seem not to know it on the current traders either. So, there are a lot of people. That's good when we can say that. A lot of the fans can't even say that anymore. It's crazy the way that we are moralizing strategy at the moment. So, we want people who are going to come to play.
She describes herself as a spiritually grounded potential endurance challenge beast with daily yoga and meditation. Like, how many self-described endurance beasts are on this season? How long are these challenges going to last? Like, they're going to have to hunker down for an entire 24-hour period for some of these, considering how long these people are going to be standing on stumps or twisting their arms in knots.
There's a lot of Pilates and yoga. But to be fair, like, again, every Australian Survivor season, do you feel good about her chances?
I don't know. There's just something maybe
She's an enigma.
There's something a little different about Sally, I think, compared to the others that make me feel like maybe there's an element that feels like she's out of her depth a little bit, or she gets too happy about the manipulation and lying and is like, okay, let's play the blind side. It's like, whoa, Sally, pumping the gas a little too much. Maybe my mood will change the more I chew it over, much like a cactus leaf, but like there's just something that I'm picking up from her that I'm like, I feel like the pieces are a little greater than like the whole package.
All right. Well, we don't know. We can't come to a conclusion on Sally, but let's have Faith, because Faith has a crazy childhood story that I'm excited to talk about. So Faith is 34. She's a chef. She homeschools 4 of her 5 children and runs her own business, catering business, I think. And also, her childhood was one on the road in a traveling country folk music family band. Now, that's up there with the Mel Gibson line from the media kit as being, what? So again, her childhood on the road. She spent her childhood in a family band. There are photos of her on Instagram playing an instrument with the family band. They lived in a caravan and traveled around gigging. She was a child. Isn't that crazy?
I mean, that is literal child labor, which feels like it should be illegal, but like, this is incredible. Like, I don't know if this reference will be lost on you, Shannon. She's a partridge. She was part of a family band growing up. And what an odd thing to do. Like, what an odd childhood to have. Do you think she wants to do the same thing with her kids? She homeschools them. Like, do you think one day she's just waiting for like, all right, kids, homeschool is turned into road school. Get in the caravan. We've got a gig at 4:00.
Maybe that was her intention, but her kids just aren't musically talented.
Oh no, it doesn't run in the family? Well,
I don't know. Then why aren't they a band? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm hearing that they're homeschooled. They're not caravan schooled. Like, where's the performance?
But regardless, Faith she's a chef now, right? She's a caterer by day.
She's a caterer and she's a skater. She's a skater caterer.
Oh, do you think she does it all like how they have the old-fashioned waitresses on skates? I think she should skateboard up with a platter.
I don't think that she does it at the same time. Much like any question you've asked me that 3 times today, I really don't think but she is very quirky. She is, again, like, and now I have a pre-merge, but then I'm like, but some of these quirky people have to like go through to the post-merge. So
yeah, she says, I spent my life living a really peculiar life to a lot of people. And with that has come a lot of judgment. I'm here to prove that there is literally not one way to do anything. Again, not redemption. Maybe it's just
that is the story.
Maybe it's also the chef as well. I don't know. People who have followed me up to this point know how much I weight service jobs as when it comes to picking Survivor winners, just because I think there are so many direct skills that carry over. And Faith, as a caterer, I think knows, as a caterer. And so I think that is something that is more directly applicable. And the fact that she is more than happy to live a bit of a transient lifestyle, maybe that means she'll move between alliances effectively too.
Running your own business, we found out with Robert's fact check, is statistically the best winning path, like, job to have. Forget lawyers.
And not to mention, she also runs the business alongside her husband. So I think if she's looking for like a number one, she knows how to operate with somebody in tandem towards the same goal.
That is true. Yeah, maybe I should make a post. None of this means anything. You didn't even do pre-merge, post-merge. So
I do, for lack of a better term, have some faith in Faith. Not to mention, like, I don't think they're going to have as much stock in the staple, but like, chefs have also done pretty well on these shows too. I don't think they've ever won, but like going back to Keith Famey all the way in Survivor, in a different Survivor Australia.
What's her redemption story? Kids are musically untalented. Need a redemption for them.
Maybe
gotta make some money because they won't.
Maybe the redemption story is that her family never got that record deal.
Yes, exactly.
And so she's like a combination of Keith and Sonia, where she's gonna sit by the fire playing her homemade mandolin, singing about the moon.
Okay, that's better than, what did she say her redemption story was?
And you know what? Actually, her and Dawn could be a beautiful duet.
That is true. Her, I think her redemption story was she was from a small town, right? Like that was
her redemption story was that people judged her for her peculiar childhood.
I actually did do that, so that might actually be legitimate.
But she doesn't need redemption from that.
Well, she does, because I just did it.
But that's not her redemption. If she does well, you're not like, you redeemed yourself. It's more, I was wrong.
Yeah, isn't that redemption?
No!
The word has lost all meaning. Let's move on. Here is Kat. Kat is someone who also lost a reality show, which is great. Redemption.
All right, so let's talk about this, because you mentioned Traitors a number of times. And here is, I believe, the first person to compete on Traitors before competing on Survivor. Usually it's vice versa.
That is true. And it was Traitors New Zealand, which is a show I covered. So I should remember a lot about Kat. The machinations of that season escaped me. I definitely remember Kat as a big personality. I remember that I think she had like a good social game, like she was well liked. I think it's really hard to nail down how people will be on Survivor if they've been a faithful on the Traitors.
Yes,
if you've been a traitor, then there's a lot to learn.
And she made it far. I believe she was the last faithful murdered, not banished, on her season of the Traitors New Zealand season 2.
I went through my notes and I seem to be annoyed by her wrong faithful logic late in the game. I was like, her reads are wrong and her logic makes no sense. And it was irritating me. However, again, it's such a vague role. It's so hard to be, it's so hard to be a faithful. I don't know.
And it's also tough because in Traitors, there is a right and wrong answer, right? It's like, oh, I think this person's a traitor. Either they are or they aren't. Survivor, the thing that often gets talked about is the social contract, is that every season you essentially create your own truth out there based on the people you're playing with. And so it's not like Kat can come in and be like, okay, I'm going to target this person. No, that's the wrong thing to do. It's much more of an enigmatic type of thing where it's not so dictated by the hardened truth of, oh, Kat, you had the wrong move and now you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, well, she also she works mental health, which is great. She says she's not a challenge beast, and that concerns me because everyone else here is like, I'm an endurance threat. So I had a primo.
I don't know. She could talk herself up as the puzzle person. Definitely comes from that brainier background. Now, whether those puzzle skills are up to snuff is one thing.
Whether they ever have a puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that, remember the time in Australia and All Stars where just didn't have a puzzle for the first 5 episodes of the season?
Exactly, more. So yeah.
But I don't know. I have trust in Kat's just skills on the whole. So I think she is someone who, might be off in her reads, but at least knows how to make reads and is observational. And yes, there isn't a lot of translation from being a faithful into this game, but she does understand some of the endurance that it takes to make a deep run into a reality TV season. And I think maybe she knows especially how to be a little bit more in the background. Whereas again, we're talking about some of these people that might flame out really early on, but being like, I got to hit the ground running. Again, she's not coming from a background that is about playing the long game necessarily, but I think Kat could take on the mentality, especially from a therapist perspective, right? Again, this is somebody who is all about giving others space to come to their own conclusions. I think it's a very valuable skill to have.
Will anyone know she was on Traitors New Zealand? Will even Tez know that? I
don't think Tez would know that. I think unless, because I don't.
Was anyone watching that? We were covering it.
Yeah, I don't know how readily available it is. I know it's available on Peacock for people like Mark Ballas to binge on mass before going on the show. But is it available on where's Traitors Australia even streaming in Australia?
We have it on 10. We have all the Traitors. I think we even have New Zealand, but I don't know if we had it at the time.
Oh, interesting. They should put it on to be watch Kat's first Dynamite season of reality TV.
Yeah, this is a crazy crossover. Who would have ever thought we'd get a Traders New Zealand player on Australian Survivor? We've come so far.
But just to clarify, she is Australian. She just played on Traders New Zealand for some reason.
Was she living in New Zealand?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Like, she lives in Melbourne.
Okay. Well, there you go. We have Blanche. Shine like a disco ball is what her shirt says, by the way. People they're trying to Kellify these women.
Stop trying to make Kelly happen. But Blanche is a very shiny person to me. I really enjoy her. So she's 47 years old. She's from the Gold Coast. She's currently an acupuncturist, but like, maybe this is a little bit of a redemption story. She says that basically she redid her entire life at 40. It's very similar to like Julie Alley from Survivor 45, where I don't even know what her previous, she's a former fitness instructor and then gym owner. And then she basically like went to university at 40, completely rewrote her story, and is now an acupuncturist.
I think that's a fair redemption story. I will say she was also raised on a farm.
Is also an adult cheerleader. Now, I guess my question is she still an adult cheerleader?
Also, why do you need to say adult? Like, we know you're an adult. So if you just say cheerleader, we'll know you're an adult cheerleader.
I don't know, because I think if she said is a cheerleader, I think there's a lot of assumptions like, oh yeah, when you were a teenager. So I guess adult cheerleader makes sense.
Current cheerleader?
I guess I'm also asking for whom or what? Or is it like, can you hire adult cheerleaders to cheer you on for any menial activity you do?
I'd love to. I mean, I'd love that. I need that. I'm about to have a baby. We get someone to the delivery room.
So perhaps the qualification of Blanche is that she feels like she has boundless energy and a passion of life. But I don't know. I feel like if she's an acupuncturist, like, I don't know how out there Blanche is. You know, I feel like your acupuncturists typically have like a very good vibe to them, considering that they're sticking a bunch of needles into you. You have to trust them inherently on some level.
Or she's a terrible acupuncturist and that's going terribly and that's why she needs redemption. There's a bunch of lawsuits because she's bad at it. Like, that could be. So, I mean, look, if anyone's Kelly on this cast, it actually is Blanche. But like, I don't want to erroneously paint with that brush, because when we did the preseason for Kelly, like, we went on her Instagram and she was doing like terrible stand-up and she was singing in the street and like, no one is Kelly. And Blanche has a private Instagram, so I don't know much. But the adult cheerleader thing, to me, I'm a little bit like, but yeah, she's a single mom to 4 daughters. She does have a clear redemption story. She said when they did this or that, she didn't say neither or both, which I appreciated. But when others were saying blindside or loyalty, she said loyalty. So I think there are, like, I still have a pre-merge. I don't know if I'm off with this whole cast because they're so quirky. Like, this is how I felt about Survivor 44. I was trying to pick all the normal people, and then like the weirdos, and I say this lovingly, did really well.
Wackadoodles win.
And I feel like I misjudged that whole cast, and maybe I'm doing that here. But I do think of everyone, Blanche is like, she's too quirky. Even for this quirky cast, I feel like it's a little bit too much.
I could see Blanche's former life as a fitness instructor come to the forefront here. Like, I could see her be one of the more vocal people, especially in the challenges. And I could see that possibly rubbing people the wrong way. Now, I also could see a world where, like, she is heralded as this awesome badass in these challenges, especially at her age. But because she's a former gym owner, like, I think she carries a lot of authority with her. And so if she isn't bringing the vibes, I could see a world where people are starting to get turned off by her, you know, consistently telling them what to do.
She also has a surfing background, a passion for the ocean. Like, a lot of this cast, she's done a lot. But I feel like people, might get irritated by if that's like coming to the fore. All right, last person on the cast. This is Keely. Keely has a cool job. She's a fraud prevention specialist.
Yes, this is something
another thing I learned about today through this research process.
It's a little bit of like, if you remember Nicole from Survivor 49, the woman, fortunately, probably most remember for throwing up.
If I remember the person from last season that we watched 6 months ago, yeah.
But yeah, she was a financial crimes consultant. It's very similar, right? It's essentially trying to spot people who are committing financial crimes. And I think Nicole talked about this. Keely talks about that as well. Like, it is maybe more than a croupier, perhaps, about observing behavior and especially observing fraudulent behavior. it's not adjacent to a police officer, but I feel like there are base observational skills of figuring out when someone is trying to deceive you, whether it be body language or other tells, that could apply to the beach.
Yeah. Like definitely it's like, she reads people. So she helps organizations identify internal risk, including fraud, money laundering, bribery, and corruption. She has worked across Australia and the Pacific, including Fiji and Papua New Guinea. What's the redemption story? That went badly? Someone did commit fraud?
Again, we're going with the loosest definition of redemption. I think it comes from the last line of her bio. Do I look like the person leading the boardroom? No. But am I going to be pulling the strings? Absolutely.
That's not anything. Like, that's less than nothing. No, I insist fraud happened. I will commit the fraud right now. That's not, you have to let fraud happen. That's the redemption story. I lost $500,000 for a client, and now I'm going to win it to pay them back.
That sounds like more like the plot of Squid Game. Of like, I lost all this money for this person, I have to go win it back.
That's a great redemption story. It's got to be that. It's got to be that.
Also,
basically, I'm a woman, so no one sees me as like a leader type because of the patriarchy. Is not a redemption story.
No, it's more of a sad truth. I will also say that she joins the other canonized saints of Australian Survivor Redemption when she says that she wants to use the money to start a learning academy in the Pacific region.
I hate them all so much.
This is actually going to be amazing if 3 of these people make it to the finals and they have to like out-inch each other in terms of like, well, my pursuits are more noble than your pursuits with the money. And so vote for whatever you want. Would you rather have animals be loved? Or would you rather have a house for Cameron's mother? Or would you rather have a learning school built?
There's a lot of shows that are like you play for charity, like celebrity shows. Do they know that's not what this is? Like, you can just buy a house.
Well, like, I think also we talk about this all the time, that I think that, well, first off, a good amount of people said they'd invested in Bitcoin, which is a choice. But I think also, like, there is, I think, a thing a lot of people bring up of, like, that prize money isn't as much as you think it is. Like, I think everyone comes in with the pie chart of, like, and 50% will go to my brother-in-law, 30% will go into this hedge fund, and another 20 will go to my trip to Bora Bora. And it's like, when the assets and liabilities weigh out, the bottom line is like, you're probably going to spend it on one thing.
I'll take it. I mean, like, if they don't think that's a lot of money, why? Well, no one wants to donate to us, to 2 podcasters in need here for 3 hours looking at their bios. This is why I must commit the fraud that Keely needs redemption.
Well, I feel like the fraud at this point, with all the enjoyment I have from this. Keely had a really fun phrase in her bio: determined to play intentionally smart with little desire for morally perfect. Like, I don't know, like, Eliza could have written that better. I kind of love that little nugget: intentionally smart with little desire for morally perfect.
I found Keely quite hard to read, ironically, because she apparently reads people, but I said post-merge because someone's got to be ? I think we can see where I got near 3 hours into this podcast and a lot of looking at bios of people I have not yet met. Because I kind of felt like this tribe was becoming like the Contenders women from 2019. Like, they were all pre-merged to me. So I'm like, well, by the law of averages, some of you got to make it. So that's where I put Keely. But that's everyone, Mike. Happy Valentine's Day, by the way. We did it. Are you okay?
Did it. We're here. We're talking through all 24. No, my brain just froze right there because I realized we're done talking about these people. Yeah. So this is a cast that, I guess, what did we pick up from them? 3/4 of them don't actually have redemption stories. A lot of them were born on a farm or grew up on a farm.
Some of them sang on the farm.
Some of them sang on the farm. A lot of them have quirks to them, but make them very well versed across multiple skill sets. It makes it a bit harder to pick a winner. And apparently they all want to use their money to save the world.
Yeah. So that's what we have: a very philanthropic, quirky, rural cast.
Just like, so you press this lever on the slot machine and those 3 come up. And then Paula comes over and says, sir, I have to escort you from the premises. You've been here gambling for too long. And
Swindle is like, oh, man.
Dang it.
Yeah. And then Smaxon is there. That's the name. That's it. Mike's lost his mind. Thank you all for being here. There'll be more coverage. We're going to have a couple of other things in the preseason. The season will start Monday, February 23rd, and then the season will be covered very initially, hopefully by me, and then not by me. and we're gonna have a great time. You know, I know it's during 50, and 50 has a lot of focus, but you don't have time for 2 Survivor seasons. What, you have so much going on?
This is our Survivor equinox right now. Yes, there's a very important celestial body, but let's not forget about the planet that rotates around once a year that is so immensely enjoyable to not only watch, but talk about. So thank you, Shannon, for having me on, for organizing all of this so well. It's gotten me even more excited for this group. Again, you know, I reserve judgment about David as a host, about what this season is going to provide, but I feel like there's no necessarily need for redemption, at least maybe from the Australian Survivor definition of redemption, which is like people are underestimating it, but we'll see how they do. So I'm thrilled.
That's so incredible. It's a self-redeeming story.
It actually, maybe that's why they called it redemption. You know, they sort of saw the writing on the wall. They're like, oh shit, we really got to redeem ourselves after we let JLP
our
go.
Redemption is from the, well, I'm not mentioning JLP, but our redemption is from that. Then we'll see if they gain it. Wow, that's really beautiful, I think. Yeah. I don't know. It's been so long that we've been here.
This was the brainstorming session that they spent 3 hours and eventually talked their way back into agreeing that redemption was an overseen concept.
Yeah, but well, redempt on.
Redempt on.
Redempt on. Do you have more? Do you have more to say?
I've got plenty more to say in general. I'm certainly about Australian Survivor. This will not be the last you're hearing from me, but I'm sure if you've been checking out 50, you are very, very tired of hearing my voice. You said I've lost my mind. I would wager that I've lost it a long time ago because I've been pumping out all of these interviews. Right now, all my interviews with the cast of Survivor 50 are out. I cannot recommend them enough. I have received so many incredibly kind words about these interviews. It was my first returning player season, so even for someone who's interviewed, you know, many contestants in the past, this was a first for me, getting to sit down with some living legends, with some people that I become friends with, you know, particularly in the new era. And it was just such an unbelievable time that I think made me, much like we did over the past 5 minutes, understand a bit more as to why they cast these specific 24 people. So I really encourage people, check it out. It's all up on RHAP, including tribe previews I did with Rob Cesternino. I also did a draft with Dalton Ross of the cast while I was on set in Fiji. And the last thing that I will plug is that, listen, there are some famous faces that we often refer to when we talk about the Mount Rushmore of Survivor. 3 of them played an Australian Survivor in Sandra, Tony, and Parvati. And I, this Wednesday, am putting out a cover story for Parade where I got the chance to talk with the 3 of them, plus Boston Rob, where we got to hear some very fun stories about their incredible journeys, legendary stories throughout their decades on the air as we look ahead to whatever Survivor is going to bring. So all of that going on, and certainly much more at a Mike Bloom type. But I am just so happy to be back talking with you, Shannon, about this. There's no one else that I would rather spend almost 3 hours coming up with Dawn puns with. But I think now I'm officially Dawn for now.
Yeah, I think doing this entire podcast without going into labor, like it's actually very impressive. Can you imagine if that happened on the podcast, though? By the law of averages, it probably will. And what an incredible thing that, no, I'm joking. I don't know. It's not late for me. I want to say your interviews are amazing. US Survivor put out, 48 and 49, and the casting for 50 was questionable, and people were kind of like, what are we doing here? And I feel like you single-handedly are like pulling the people back into excitement, and I'm seeing it firsthand. So that's an incredible thing. Australian Survivor will also be happening. Watch it.
Yeah.
Too good for 2 seasons of Survivor. Anyway, yeah.
We got to learn about these people now. There's a lot of question marks. We got to turn them into exclamation points.
Yeah, so subscribe to the Survivor Global feed at Shannon Gates for all the content for now. And thank you all. Apologies for all the things. We will be gaining redemption through the season for this very podcast. And that's still a better redemption story than most of these players have. So thank you all so much. Thank you to our team behind the scenes. Thank you, Mike, for being here into the early hours of the morning. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.